all the details.
All right, welcome. This is Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into this show. Share this out, share this out, share this out. All right, welcome. It's Friday night. Law of One. Let me turn off this overlay here. I'm on the wrong screen to do that, of course. Overlay off. Let me put myself up into full screen here. Okay. So welcome, everybody. Let me go back to the chat and see who's here. Rick, welcome. Denise, welcome. Who else is here besides you guys? Is there anybody else? Somebody else was just here. They just all ran away. All right, share this out. Get everybody in here. So my camera decided to not work this week. All kinds of weird things happened with Meta, with Facebook. Stephanie just pointed out a second ago that the background photo that we had for the Law of One just all of a sudden changed and disappeared into nothingness. I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe somebody deleted it. Don't know. I'll look into that. But I have to fix that. On top of that, I couldn't go live on Instagram. I didn't have any reason from Instagram as to why I can't go live on Instagram. There's just that feature is just not there for me to go live. There is no explanation. It's just not there for me to set up a live broadcast. And it's, I know that they changed Facebook because a friend of mine had left and unpublished her page and then came back and republished it and was going to go live to do psychic readings. And Facebook had changed their dynamic and their rules to match everybody else. She had to have an account active for 6 months and have to have 1,000 followers to go live. Well, that might explain why on some of the groups that I had, we weren't able to go live, but most of the groups that I was trying to go live on Facebook are years old, and we have more than 1,000 people. So I'm not sure what was going on with that. But apparently they changed the rules so I don't know what's going on. So my account on Instagram is also years old, and I've been going live there now for 3 months, and all of a sudden the feature is just missing from my account. So Facebook's doing something really strange, and they're upgrading everything and changing all of their laws to fit the exact same laws that everybody else has on all of their platforms, TikTok being included in that. So then I went to go live on Twitter, knowing I couldn't go live on StreamYard, or on Instagram. And Twitter before said that there was an issue with going live, but this time it actually says the same thing Instagram said, that I need to go there and start a live stream for me to go live there. Well, I don't have time to do that, so I will not be live on X this week, but I probably will next week, knowing that all I have to do is the same thing, go there and hit the live button, copy the stream key, just like I've been doing for the last 10 years in all the apps that I've had to do. StreamYard was the only one that you didn't have to do that, but now apparently you had to do that with Instagram and you have to do that with Twitter, which is okay for guys like me that have been doing this for 10 years or longer. We're okay we understand how to do all that. So, but they don't tell you that until you go until you hit the live button. And then it says, oh, I'm sorry, you can't go live until you go there and start a stream. So there was no heads up with that. So I'm just now live on YouTube and Facebook. That's it. So share this out. Not that that matters. Those two places were mostly where I went live anyway, but I don't have the biggest audience. Well, Facebook has a decent sized audience, but YouTube is not, because I was deplatformed 2 years ago from the page that I had, or the channel that I had on YouTube, dating back to, I don't know when, 2010 or before that, and they deplatformed me. So I'm on another, I'm on my other name, which I've had close to the same amount of time, but I was not posting anything on there. So now I'm trying to rebuild a audience on that platform to get people on there. So I only get, 20 or 30 videos, plays, sometimes 5 on that channel, because, before I was getting hundreds, not anymore, right? So I got to rebuild all that over there. So I don't know what's going on, but Facebook and everything that Facebook owns in the last month, and definitely in the last freaking couple hours, just went like really bizarre. So whatever, man, right? We'll figure that out. Okay, so I'm thinking about firing StreamYard and moving to Rumble anyways, because of all the problems that everybody's having with Google and these other platforms, that most people are starting to move over there now to Rumble. So I might be doing that in the future, and then just linking things in Facebook to where when you guys click on it, if I can go live on Facebook still, because I know that you can do that, but I have to pay them, which means I have to fire StreamYard and pay them, because I'm not paying extra money, because I was doing that with Zoom. And I don't know what happened with my camera, but it just decided not to work today when I turned this on, and I haven't been on Zoom or anything with my camera. So the last thing I was on was here live on Facebook last Friday. So there's no reason my camera should not have worked. And I even made sure that I didn't have the little slide window, closed and open. Hopefully my sound is good, right? Because as soon as I plug this GoPro in, it automatically defaults to that microphone. And I went in and I think I switched it to where it's not. So if you guys are having a hard time hearing me, or I sound like I'm a million miles away, let me know, because then I can fix that, right? So otherwise I won't know that you guys don't hear it, and then you're gonna have a hard time hearing Raw, because Raw works on the internal microphone. So as soon as we do a sound check with Raw here, you guys will either go, I can't hear that at all, or you'll be able to hear it. So that's how we'll know if I have to readjust my microphone again. So I apologize if that happens, because everything was last second, because of all the other issues that were happening in just life in general. Trying to get mom in and out of the shower, and getting her lunch, and getting myself lunch, and then trying to get everything ready. It was a good thing that I already prepped everything ahead of time, including knowing exactly what question we were on to pick up, right? So thank you, Rick, because Rick is usually, he says, oh, it sounds nice. Hopefully, if you're saying that about my sound and not what somebody else said, hopefully, because Rick usually is the first one to catches the sound if my sound is off on my microphone. Oh, so you guys are just having a conversation. Okay. So as usual, I didn't know that, when next time when I have a class, I'm going to have to start telling everybody, turn your phones off and sit down and listen to what the professor has to say, right? Because otherwise you guys come in and chat like it's a social chat room, like you guys haven't been talking to each other all day and all night over in the other chat. Right. And it's not like you guys can't have side conversations in the other chat either. So, right. But so as long as you guys are able to hear me right now, unless I'm talking to myself and nobody has said anything to me. Right. I'm assuming that you guys just don't see my mouth moving and nobody has said, hey, Leo, and we can't hear you. Right. So that's funny. OK. So at least now I know somebody actually addressed me. Thank you, Rick. Hi, Cassie, by the way. I didn't realize that you were here until I looked down and saw you were talking. So I didn't say hi to you. Okay. So like I said, share this out. I've only shared it to 2 places, my page and Returning to the Old Ways, because I didn't have time to share it out when normally would share it out to 3 or 4 places. I didn't even have time to do that. So you guys got to do the sharing out for me. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do a sound check with Raw, and you guys let me know if my mic sounds fine. You guys should be able to hear Raw, but I'll still do the sound check like I normally do to check the volume as I'm picking up stuff off my computer. Not sure what that was. Something floating around on my computer. Okay, so let me go ahead and press play on Raw. We are on session 57, question number 15. I think we were up to like 16 or 17, but sorry, my shirt is hanging off of me. It's like 4 sizes too big for me. I haven't bought a bunch of new shirts. I have some that are the right size, but I only have about 4 of those. So if I don't do laundry every other day, I go through those pretty quickly. And then I'm wearing these shirts that are my fat shirts that I used to wear when I was fat. Thank you, Penny. Penny said, loud and clear. Thank you. Okay, so let me go ahead and press play on Raw. And we'll get started. Wait, I should probably preface where we're at for those people who are possibly tuning in for the first time around the world, because the MP3 broadcast will be going out. Some people may not, and also maybe somebody might be first-time listeners here. So what Dawn is asking Raw, and what Raw is talking about was aligning the chakras and doing healing, because Carla in this session is currently under a psychic attack. And they were talking about the possibility of using the pyramidal shape to help with Carla. And so they're literally, Dawn had asked if making a pyramidal shape and putting it underneath, say, the bed that she's laying on would help her, or somewhere else. And Raw's answering that question and talking about the difference in the energy between the king's chamber, the queen's chamber, and the what they call the hall, or the hallway in there in the lower section of the pyramid. And Raw's explaining to Dawn that that if you build a pyramid small and you put it underneath either really small under the pillow or underneath the bed, that you might pick up energies from both. And depending on what you want the energy to be, it might be the wrong energy that you're getting, because you're getting all the energies from the pyramid. If the pyramid is too close to the head, and you shouldn't be being in the pyramidal shape, depending on what you're doing with it and how big and how small it is, for more than 30 minutes at a time, because the energy could be too much for a person if they're not used to transmuting energy. And Raw is in the middle of explaining that. And that's why I rewound it a little bit, so that we could then segue into the rest of what's going on. So let me go ahead and press play, and you guys let me know if you can hear it. And I know that I have to turn the sound up a little bit, because I don't have it up very high right now. So let me press play and we'll go from there.
57.15 Questioner. Then if a pyramid shape is used, it would seem to me that it would be necessary to make it large enough so that the queen's chamber position would be far enough from the king's chamber position, so that you could use that energy position and not be harmed by the energy position of the king's chamber position, or any position farther from the queen's chamber. Is this correct?
Good. Position much, right? Look at that's all those positions that Don just talked about. So exactly what I was saying in the preface of where we were. And thank you for letting me know that you guys can hear it okay. And thank you, Cassie, for sharing this out. And thank you for telling me that you can hear it. All right, so let's go ahead and continue with Ra giving the explanation of this.
Ra, I am Ra. In this application, a pyramid shape may be smaller if the apex angle is less, thus not allowing the formation of the king's chamber position. Also efficacious for this application are the following shapes: the silo, the cone, the dome, and the teepee. 57.16 Questioner. Do these shapes that you just mentioned have any of the effect of the king's chamber at all?
Now, I want to preface this. I don't know exactly how in detail Ra gets here, but I wanted to explain that the different shapes, like he just talked about, the different shapes of structures have a completely different resonance in energy, including Ra mentioned, they mentioned the dome shape, the teepee specifically. If you look at all the parliamentary buildings that Europeans build for their governmental system to house their governmental systems, they're always a dome shape. Okay. And if you look at rich people in the buildings that they live in, they are pyramidal or cone, cave, half dome shaped buildings that they all live in. High vaulted ceilings, very much dome shaped building, circular. and then look at the structures that everyone else on the face of the earth live in, work in, go to school in, go into the military in, we all live in square structures, 100% square and rectangle structures. No dome shapes, no curved shapes, no bell shape, no teepee shape, no pyramidal shape. There are no buildings unless they're art museums or the like that you go into that resonate in any way other than a square or rectangle shape, unless you build it yourself. Why is that? You need to ask yourself that question. The answer to that question is, Denise said, just saying hi over in YouTube. Thank you, Denise. So the answer to that question is that these structures that we use, that we live in, are literally the lowest vibrational structure on the face of the earth that a human being can live in. Okay, that's why they create these. If you go to places where it snows, you get more of a pyramidal shape because of the snow. That if you sit on a flat structure, it gets heavy and it'll crush in and it'll smash in and kill people. So they have to build them differently in other countries. And if you talk to the people or go to those places, the energy that is in those houses with vaulted ceilings and a pyramidal or a steeple chapel style roof is completely different in a higher vibration. The Vikings, whenever they would go anywhere, their ships would their longhouses would literally be the hull of the ship. And there's churches that are made that same exact way out of a hull of a ship, where they turn it upside down and they build it because that's their great hall. And that was done on purpose, because they would reuse everything, and if they ever needed to pack up and go home, they wouldn't have to rebuild the entire ship. And then they used the pillars to hold the structure up was the mast for the boats. So literally, if they decided they needed to go home or pack up and leave, they just took apart. They were like a what we called over here a MASH unit in the military, a mobile MASH means Mobile Army Surgical Hospital. But literally, that's what that is. They're bivouacked. So they would build structures to live in, and they always built round structures with vaulted ceilings and dome-like, almost teepee-like structures. They did this everywhere on the planet until the modern era, where people started building structures, and then they stopped building these structures that have in any way ceilings that go anywhere other than flat. And they build every chance they can, they build them that way on purpose, because it's the lowest vibration that you could possibly live in. And then they wall you in flat and square as well. Why? Because this structure, like the one that I'm in right now, is the lowest vibration there is. You have to add to that. What I do is, and we've been teaching this, I've been teaching them, I'm not the only one. This is being taught by everybody in alternative, what they call new wave. That's what they used to call it for about 40 years, spirituality, with teaching people how to cast a circle to work in Wicca, Druid, pagan religions. We teach people that it's a bubble that you're creating. It's not just a circle on the ground. It's not a cylinder. It's a bubble that you literally are standing in. So it goes as below, so above. So whatever you're casting as a bubble above you in a circle, the distance around you, it's also going below you that same amount of distance, because it's a bubble. Just adding that energy to a structure that is square changes the vibration. And I always teach people to extend your bubble out past the square structure, so that your energy is creating a complete spherical bubble, a torus, if you will, around the area that you're living in, your domicile, your work space that you're in, so that it changes the vibration of that place. And the square, ugly, nasty, low vibration structure is within the circle, and all of the energy changes for that entire area. And I do that at my house. And every single person that comes to my house, they walk in here and it's almost as if the entire universe is no longer, they can't hear it, they don't feel it. And after about 20 minutes of being in my house, people become comfortable and start wanting to go to sleep, and because they relax, because they're not being bombarded by negative energy. And they're like, God, every time I come over here, I get tired and I want to sleep. And I'm like, I have that effect. It's because it's like a blanket to you. You're not aware of it unless you're sensitive to energy. And then people walk in and go, wow, it's yummy in here and quiet. Those people who are aware of that know it when they walk in my house. They're like, wow. I would have people over when I was living with roommates. I wouldn't always, without their permission, extend it over the whole house. And so I would make my bedroom that way. And when people would walk through the door threshold into my bedroom, they would feel the difference. And they would literally go, it is quieter in here than it is out there. And I'm like, that's because what you're not hearing is the ambient white noise of the chaos that is bombarding you out there. Okay. So you have to become aware of these tactics that these people are using against you, and you have to fix that, make adjustments to that. In everything that you do in your life, you should always do that, because they're making sure that your vibration, without your knowledge, is the lowest possible vibration, lowest possible ascension, to keep you in the lowest vibration as a childlike mind, 11 to 14 years of age, and being so distracted and bombarded and attacked by everything that is out there in the world that it is chaotic to you, and you can't hear anything of nature, nothing, you can't concentrate. And they do that on purpose, and they keep you that way until you burn out. You either flip your gourd, or you pull away from society, or you get angry and you start, becoming what they want you to become. That's all being done to you on purpose. And Ra is talking about that in the different structures, and Ra is going to explain how the different structures have a different vibration as we go forward here in this session. Okay, sorry, let me put my glasses on. Cassie says that Denise has a question, right? Okay, so I catch the last part that says with the top being like a crown. So let me go back and find out what you were talking about. Are pyramids like the chakras? That's actually a really good question. The pyramidal structure and the Giza Plateau, let's take that specific, because that's what Ra's talking about here. That specific structure and its design, you can pull up. I don't have a copy of it to show you right here, but you can pull up a design of that pyramid and see the different rooms, staircase, the Queen's Chamber, King's Chamber, all of the different open structures, hallways, stairs, the lower structure, the sarcophagus. All of that mirrors your brain from your third eye to the bottom of your chin, or to the top of your chin, the bottom of your teeth. This portion of your brain structure and what goes on in the inside is what that pyramid is a representation of. Okay. So literally everything that goes on there is the pineal gland, right? The pituitary gland, the pineal gland, right? The hippocampus, the third eye, the optic thalamus, the third eye. All of these structures in your brain are in the exact same location as the King's Chamber, Queen's Chamber, and the like, for all of those things, including the vents that are supposedly there that some people say are not, and what those represent. So the entire pyramidal structure, when you walked into it, is literally you going in and you becoming the Christ oil, you taking that journey, you becoming the Santa Claus and going through the claustrum, going through the chimney, okay? And going to your illumination or healing. So the pyramid is literally inside your brain, and it is the structure of your brain and all of the things that are in your brain that represent the Ark of the Covenant and the light of the world and all of the stuff that is the ascension. people would physically go into this big giant chamber that was basically the brain structure, and from the brain stem up of your and the vibration of things that go on there, so that they can physically go through this. But it was created so long ago because it was a tool to teach people what we can actually do with meditation now and the knowledge that we have. So it's actually, Stephanie, welcome. And who else was here? Polly. Did I say welcome to Polly? Welcome. So that's actually a really good question. So the pyramidal structure, say by itself, if you were to create a pyramidal structure out of wood or copper or something else, is also an aid, and that's why most people put it over their head, because it helps balance your chakras, but it also helps with all the function of the ascension and the illumination in your skull. So if you build one and you sit in it, what you're going to get is, depending on the size of it, you should look into what is his name? Oh, I can't think of his name right now. I haven't thought of his name for a long time. He's a Russian scientist who I've talked to, I'm friends with, and I've talked to many times and interviewed him many times. He's got books, and he's actually building pyramids around the world, especially in Russia, because he's Russian. So he's building pyramidal shapes, schools inside of a pyramid, and the like. And he has pictures of them, and I can't think of his name right now. Darn it. I really can't. I can't. It's Yuri something, I think. Don't quote me. I'll have to find his name for you guys. But he has tapped into the energy of the pyramids and realizes, because he's been investigating for decades, and he realizes the different energies depending on the size of the pyramid itself and what it's built out of changes the vibration. And the school that's built, that pyramid enhances your cognitive abilities and your ability to focus, and it helps you create memory. So literally all the kids who go to school inside there are testing way more advanced than anybody else in their memory, in their ability to learn, in their ability to focus. And it's just because they're inside of this structure that's built as a pyramid, the way that it was built with the exact specifications that he built it to, because he realized the math. Then hospitals are being built inside of a pyramidal structure so that it helps people to heal faster. And he's proven through science that these buildings are actually aiding with the specific equations that he claimed they would. And when they test kids that go to a school right in the same, outbuildings, those kids never get to go into the pyramid, and they're testing. And then you test the kids that are in the pyramidal structure all the time. All the kids in the pyramidal structure are testing better than the ones in the non. And then the same thing with the healing abilities of the hospitals compared to the healing abilities of regular hospitals where people are in. So this is actual, and a lot of people say he's wrong and he doesn't know what he's talking about, yet he has the scientific research to back it up. And he's going around the world and he's looking at other structures and their shapes, and along with like Robert Schoch, measuring everything and figuring out the harmonic resonance that the people who built them knew was there. They knew the mathematics of what they were doing. It wasn't a mistake. And they built them exactly, dome shape, bell shape, pyramidal shape around the world on purpose because of the vibratory pattern of the structure and what it represented. And they're figuring that stuff out around the world. But most mainstream scientists don't want to hear about it because they're not getting paid for that. And that's not the narrative that the people who are paying them are trying to get across. Ashley, welcome. Ashley said, hey, me and Pamela called in, but our internet still sucks. So, yeah, right. So hopefully you guys will be able to come in and out, right? Who's this? The Woo Riders, right? Welcome. And Stephanie, did I say welcome to you? Right. So that's a great question, Denise, that you brought up. And was hidden name Houdin? What are you talking about? Now I got to go back and find out, Denise, what you're talking about. Where were you saying something other than that? Hidden name where? In the pyramid? There's a lot of hidden names in the pyramid, if that's what you're talking about. So what's this? Stephanie said, I comment one time and all of a sudden top fan. Oh yeah, I don't have any control over that at all. So I don't know how that works because I've done the same thing where I've been in somebody's live and I've never been there before. And I said, I put up the prayer hands and all of a sudden I was listed as a top fan. So I don't know how that works either, right? And I know the person wasn't brand new, so it wasn't like nobody ever did that before. So I'm just like, wow, okay. So yeah, Denise, clarify what you were asking me about, so I know what you're talking about. His name, that is building the school. Oh no, it's not. It's a Russian name. His name is like. I'm getting caught on Yuri, and his first name's not Yuri. It's a name that almost sounds like a female name, but it's unisex like Sean is and Chris is to the Irish. Michelle and Michael, it's just a feminine version of the same name. I actually worked with a woman whose name was Leona, right? That's the feminine version of Leonard. And I have a cousin whose name is Lena, which is also a feminine version of Lenin, of Leonard in Russian, right? I don't know that she's aware that we have the same name. I don't think I've ever told her that our name means the same thing. I don't know if she's aware of that. It'd be funny if she popped in here and she was like, "What?" Yeah. So, so the scientist, I can't think of his name. Russian guy. I'll think of it. I'm friends with him on Facebook, and I'll if I remember it as we're talking, I'll tell you guys what it is. But yeah, his first name is a name that sounds feminine, so and that's why I'm like, it's not Yuri, but I'm keep getting Yuri for some reason popping into my head, so my brain is obsessing on Yuri, and so I don't know why I'm getting that. Right now, I'm getting Andropov, right, and it's not Andropov. Yuri Andropov is probably why I'm doing that. He was a Russian czar. Way back he was in the 60s, right? Yeah, I can't think of his name now. I'll think of it as we go on, right? So yeah, so we'll figure that out. I'll remember. If I don't, I'll look him up on my Facebook page later and let you guys know who he is, because I'm friends with him. Not that it would be easier to look people up on my friends list, because I have like 3,000 people following me or something. And I have 2,000 some odd friends. Yikes. I don't even know who 90% of them are. Okay. So let's get into Ra's explanation of the different vibrations from these different shapes, because I think Ra gets into that right here.
Or do they have only the Queen Chamber effect? Ra, I am Ra. These shapes have the Queen's Chamber effect. It is to be noted that a strongly crystallized entity is, in effect, a portable King's Chamber position. 57.17 Questioner. Then are you saying that there is absolutely no need, use, or good in having the King's Chamber effect at this time in our planetary evolution? Ra, I am Ra. We're all those who desired to be healers of a crystallized nature, and we're all supplicants those wishing less distortion. The pyramid would be, as always, a carefully designed set of parameters to distribute light and its energy so as to aid in healing catalyst. However, we found that your peoples are not distorted towards the desire for purity to a great enough extent to be given this powerful and potentially dangerous gift. We, therefore, would suggest it not be used for healing in the traditional, shall we say, King's Chamber configuration, which we naively gave to your peoples only to see its use grossly distorted and our teachings lost. 57.18 Questioner. What would be an appropriate apex angle for a TP shape for our uses? Ra, I am Ra. This is at your discretion. The principle of circular, rounded, or peaked shapes is that the center acts as an invisible inductive coil. Thus the energy patterns are spiraling and circular. Thus the choice of the most pleasant configuration is yours. The effect is relatively fixed. 57.19 Questioner. Is there any variation in the effect with respect to the material of construction, the thickness of the material? Is it simply the geometry of the shape, or is it related to some other factors? Ra, I am Ra. The geometry, as you call it, or relationships of these shapes in their configuration is the great consideration. It is well to avoid stand-use material or that of lead or other baser metals. Wood, plastic, glass, and other materials may all be considered to be appropriate. 57.20 Questioner. If a pyramid shape were placed below the entity, how would this be done? Would this be placed beneath the bed? I'm not quite sure of the arrangement for energizing the entity by placing it below. Could you tell me how to do that? Ra, I am Ra. Your assumption is correct. If the shape is of appropriate size, it may be placed directly beneath the cushion of the head or the palate upon which the body complex rests. We again caution that the third spiral of upward lining light, that which is emitted from the apex of this shape, is most deleterious to an entity in overdose and should not be used over long. 57.21 Questioner, what would the height of one of these pyramids be, approximately, in centimeters, for best functioning? Ra, I am Ra. It matters not. Only the proportion of the height of the pyramid from base to apex to the perimeter of the base is at all important. 57.22 Questioner, what should that proportion be? Ra, I am Ra. This proportion should be the 1.16 which you may observe. 57.23 Questioner.
1.168 is the golden mean ratio, golden ratio. So the inside not only the pyramidal shape, but the teepee shape, being that cone shape that goes up, creates that energy of the spiral energy, the goddess energy, the feminine energy. 1.618, 1.168, 1.168. And he just said 1.16. He didn't he rounded it up. And so that's literally, Peter, welcome. That's literally the energy of that structure, right? So we're in the square or rectangle, which is the Fibonacci sequence, which is the masculine energy in the Kundalini, and the cone shape, right? Cone shape or pyramid shape creates the spiral, which is the feminine energy, which is the energy of ascension, not war. So they're literally having us live in a structure that is creating strife, creating aggression, creating masculine, male, warlike energy in the population that they're trying to keep in the lizard brain and make them more warlike. Yet they're living in a wisdom dome shape energy that is creating the spiral energy that is the feminine ascension wisdom energy in the structures that they govern in and the structures that they live in their houses. Okay, so let's continue. Hope if I can get that to press play.
Do you mean that the sum of the four base sides should be 1.16 of the height of the pyramid? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. 57.24 Questioner, by saying that the Queen's chamber was the initiatory place, could you tell me what you mean by that? Ra, I am Ra. This question is a large one. We cannot describe initiation in its specific sense due to our distortion towards the belief/understanding that the process which we offered so many of your years ago was not a balanced one. However, you are aware of the concept of initiation and realize that it demands the centering of the being upon the seeking of the Creator. We have hoped to balance this understanding by enunciating the law of one, that is, that all things are one Creator. Thus seeking the Creator is done not just in meditation and the work of an adept but in the experiential nexus of each moment. The initiation of the Queen's chamber has to do with the abandoning of self to such desire to know the Creator in full that the purified teeming light is drawn in balanced fashion through all energy centers, meeting in indigo and opening the gate to intelligent infinity. Thus the entity experiences true life or, as your people call it, resurrection. 57.25 Questioner, you also mentioned the pyramid was used for learning. Is this the same process or is there a difference? Ra, I am Ra. There is a difference. 57.26 Questioner, what is the difference? Ra, I am Ra. The difference is the presence of other selves manifesting in space/time and after some study, in time/space, for the purpose of teach/learning. In the system created by us, schools were apart from the pyramid, the experiences being solitary. 57.27 Questioner.
Okay, before we go any further, I looked him up. Valery Uvaroff. Valery Uvaroff. Valery. Last name U-V as in Victor, A-R-O-V as in Victor, Uvaroff. That's who I'm talking about. That's the Russian guy that's doing this stuff. I went to my buddy's friends list that I know is friends with him, that I could look up the mutual friends of him and I and go down, and I knew it had something to do with a you or remember I was saying Yuri, right? So, but I knew it was Valerie. So I remember I said it was a female voice, female name, Valerie, but it's a unisex in the Russian Slavic languages. So Valery Uvarov is his name. You guys should look him up on Facebook. He's on my friends list, and take a look at his page and see the crazy stuff that he's doing with the pyramidal shapes. Okay, let's continue with the next question. You're welcome, Denise. All right, so let's keep going. What's that? Wait. Oh, okay, that was a question for Peter. Let's continue.
I didn't quite understand what you meant by that. Could you tell me more of what you're talking about? Ra, I am Ra. This is a wide subject. Please restate for specificity. 57.28 questioner.
Right before he gets further, Rick says, "I'll try with no typos in my meditation. Pyramid made from copper pipe. Does the energy stay within the empty walls, or does it flow outside of the copper pyramid?" Yes and no. For the most part, it stays within, but above the pyramidal structure that you make. So even if you have a little teeny one, above the pyramidal structure, the energy gets transported, and there's also energy that is a field that is a stargate that is above the pyramids. That's what caused the problems. Ra talked about this in 1981 with Carla, or when Dawn asked about the Bermuda Triangle out off of the coast, east coast of Florida. The Bermuda Triangle off there by Bermuda. That's why it's called that, because Bermuda, the island, is right smack dab in the middle. The people going out there, aircraft and ships that have gone missing for all of time. In 1981, Ra said, and people like to say that Carla just made all this stuff up. Ra said there's a pyramid under the water that has been, that was above water before the flood, is underwater and it's still active. And when the planetary alignment is just right of our planet, there's a stargate that opens up, and what's happening is that ships and planes are flying into it and they're going somewhere else. Okay. And remember, that was in 1981 when that was stated. Everyone said Carla made this up. Carla actually died in real life before science found a pyramid under the water off the coast of Florida, almost to the millifrickin' meter where Ra said that it was. And I've seen it. I've seen photos of it and video of it, people swimming there. Okay. So I know it to be true. But that was not discovered until 2015 or 2016. I think she might have still been alive, but it was real close to when she died. So she literally 40 years ago said that there's a pyramid there, and where it was there in the Law of One in the first 4 or 5 sessions. You can go back and listen to those and hear her say that. Maybe in the first 10 sessions. It was really early on. And it was never proven until 2015 when people found it. 2016, because people found that pyramid under the Bermuda Triangle, people looked out here in the Pacific on what's called the Japanese Dragon Triangle. Okay? And guess what? There's a pyramid structure there, also under the water. And I've seen images and videos of people swimming that as well. So those two pyramids were not found until 2015 and 2016, respectively. And both of those were mentioned by Carla, who people say made this shit up. And they were exactly in the same location. And the reason people went looking for them there is because the ancient aliens people, a couple of them, knew Carla personally, one of which lived in Carla's house and then lived in the mother-in-law house in the backyard while they were doing this research. Okay, so they went out and said, I wonder if that stuff is true. And they sent out divers and found this stuff in 2015 and 2016. And it's been documented now. There's no way, because no one had ever saw those until then. So there's no way that Carla could have just accidentally made that up, and actually they followed her instructions of where she was told by Ra that they were, and that's how they found them. So there's no record of them anywhere in any research in history for us to know about, because those records are either hidden or destroyed, and no one knew where the locations were. But Ra told Carla, and Carla told the Ancient Aliens people, and they sent divers down, and guess what? Those pyramids are real, and they're both really there. So there's a lot of that where people try to say that Carla just made it all up and it's just all in her head, or it was the CIA. Everybody who works for the government in any way says the CIA is doing it all, and they're the same people that say CERN is doing everything too. They're so afraid that they're locked into that religion of evil that no matter what goes on, they go, that's the deep state doing it, right? They're right about most of the shit, because the deep state is the one that does most of the evil crap that happens on this planet. And it's not just the deep state of the United States. When I say deep state, that means the 1% people who globally are running all governments and believe they own this planet. So why do pyramidal shapes conduct? All shapes, well, the mathematics is kind of scary. There's another guy, I can't think of his name right now. He'll kill me for not, I was just looking at his picture in his Facebook page yesterday, because I'm friends with him, and we've talked on several podcasts together. I interviewed him on Ancient Aliens Worldwide and on Orion Rising, but I also worked with him and interviewed him for Portal to Ascension and some other people throughout the years. And we were live on I don't remember if it was on something that I was put on, that he was on, or if it was something that Portal to Ascension put on, and I was one of the people that were live with him because I was friends with him. And there was another guy that was with us, and he did the mathematics of overlaying the pyramidal shape over the earth, putting the earth in the middle of the pyramid. You see pictures of that with the pyramid with the earth in the center of it. And he said, well, all the mathematics, those of us who know about these different shapes, the Vitruvian man in the circle, the 5-pointed star, the pentacle, the pentagram, which is upside down, the pyramid, all being inside the circular structure, the Star of David. When you do the mathematics of those, they're all the same. So he wondered if you put the earth in that same pyramidal structure and then did the mathematical equation, and what you would find. And he actually talked about it on that show that we were on together, and it's in his book, and I can't think of his name right now. And he actually found that if you take the pyramidal structure and you put it over the earth, and then you go from halfway from the top to the bottom on any side of the pyramidal structure, and you find out that's at a 32-degree parallel on the earth. And if you do the mathematics to the pi ratio to the circumference of the planet, and then do to the center, every single time it points to Mecca. Every single time it points to Mecca. So they built Mecca in a place that mathematically is identifiable from space if you overlay a pyramidal structure over the top of the earth, no matter what way you're looking justified to the earth. It always points to Mecca. Mecca is in a mathematical equation that is perfect for the earth and its location to be found by that structure. And there was all kinds of other things. I actually did a reel on this about 2 years ago or 3 years ago now, where I show that the same thing, that when you overlay a pyramidal structure, the mathematical equation points out the actual places on the earth that are the chakras of the earth. And I posted that for everybody to see. I wasn't the one who discovered that. I found that from listening to these theories from these guys who were doing the math. So all of those mathematical equations for the 5-pointed star, for the Vitruvian man, for the pyramid with the globe, for the pyramid in the circle, the same, with the opposite. Instead of having the globe inside the pyramid inside the circle, and the Star of David with the circle around it, all those mathematical equations add up to the exact same mathematical equation, which add up to the Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio. And all of those point to the chakras and where they're located on the planet and their coordinates on the earth. And that's how people realized throughout all of time where all of these structures were. And that's how we know where they all are today. Uluru being one, Mount Shasta right here next to me being another one, Glastonbury, England, where the Stonehenge is. It's slightly off from that now because the ley lines have been shifted, because the planet is off kilter by that, whatever the degrees is now, because it used to be 4.5 degrees and now it's off by 4.3 or something like that. Don't quote me on that. But it's getting less as the planet is righting itself. So eventually the energy lines are going to line back up with Stonehenge the way it was 75,000 years ago on this earth. So the pyramidal structure, to answer your question more, the energy will stay mostly inside of the pyramidal structure, Rick, but there's also the outside of it. So if you build a pyramid, you can put it under your bed. And do the math. Ra talks about the distance, depending on the scale of the pyramidal structure, to where you'll be affected by the energy of that. And you can actually build a pyramid, put it underneath your bed, and lay down and feel this resonance from the pyramidal structure, and lay there and meditate. But you also have to make sure that your head is facing north, that you're north-south polarized. You're in the south because you're in Australia, so you would want to go south-north. So you want to have your head, top of your head facing south and your feet facing north. But you're supposed to align yourself with the opposite polarization. My bed in my bedroom is facing to where when I lay down and go to sleep, the top of my head is facing north and my feet are facing south because I'm in the northern hemisphere. So wherever you are on the planet, you should align your sleeping quarters so that your head, if you're in the southern hemisphere, your head should be facing the South Pole. If you're in the northern hemisphere, your head should be facing the northern pole, the North Pole, because that polarization will affect your sleep pattern. You sleep better. You have better dreams. You're not fighting the energy of the earth. So when you rest better, and your body becomes more one with the earth and all of its energy, because you're polarizing yourself while you're sleeping. That's actually very important. And the pyramid helps you do that, Rick, if you decide to do that. It helps it even more. So if you're laying down, say, and you put it under your bed, directly under your head, and you're facing south, because you're in the southern hemisphere, being down there in Australia, you're going to find you have better rest. You're going to sleep better. And then you can meditate when you're awake better as well. Yeah, right. Rick says, yes, we have no south celestial pole star. 14,000 years ago, we did. It was Canopus. Am I saying that right? Canopus. Well, things have changed because of the Earth flipping over on its axis and flipping back up. It's now off kilter. It's not straight up. It's not being upright. Be upright. That's one of the things they teach you when you're being a knight. One of your creed is to be upright and not be crooked. That's why when somebody is evil or they're a crook, the whole word comes from they're crooked. They're not upright. So their energy isn't upright. It's crooked. They're a crook. That means they're crooked. That literally means they're not upright. They're not polarized as being in service to others. They're in service to self. So they are, in fact, crooked. Our planet is still crooked because of what happened when they screwed the poles up during the Civil War of the Atlanteans, and they flipped it over on its axis. And that was when they were trying to, a lot of you don't know this, I think it was Stephanie that was talking to me about it. It was one of the Stephanies we were talking about that, where, and it might have been Cassie too, where they were trying to do a ceremony to bring somebody through a different parallel universe into this universe, and it's in the Necronomicon, the version that talks about, I think it's Nebuchadnezzar, or it's who's the other one, the crazy, because they call him the Mad Arab. The version that has that, not just the spells, because the spells that are in the one that everybody talks about are just from the Mesopotamian scroll that everybody knows from the scroll that talks about Marduk and all of that that goes on with Tiamat and killing of Tiamat. The spells are the spells that are listed in the Enuma Elish. So that's not actually as far back as they think, although that's pretty far back because that's one of the oldest scrolls. But there's another book that I'm trying to find, and I talked about this last week. I'm trying to find another copy of it that I bought in 2012. I had it in 2010 and all the way up to 2012 when I left California to go to Arizona, and I didn't make it to Arizona with me, and I haven't been able to get a copy of it since. And that one talked about the ritual that went on way back in time where they cracked all of the crystals here on Earth and broke the pyramid and broke the obelisks, and they now, of course, they're all removed. And I talk about that in my book that is currently on the market now, that all of those obelisks have been uprooted from their original positions in Africa and moved to the capitals of all of the cabal who think they own this planet. And because of that, they have changed the vibratory pattern of the Earth, and that they were not aware of what they were doing when they were removing them, or they believed they could take that energy and harness it in a different way for them, which is what I believe is why they did it. So because of that, the entire neural network that was set up prior to all of that happening is not working. Even if the pyramids all were turned on, their link up, which were these obelisks around the world, were like telephone poles. If you have any telephone poles, if you're in America, we still have some, so you know what I'm talking about. Energy poles that have linking energy like a Wi-Fi a spot that we have now. It was the same thing. Those towers did the same thing that our Wi-Fi towers do globally. There's a geo-positioning, and it was harnessing the energy of the entire planet and the pyramidal structures, and they had free energy around the Earth. So you listen to your Aborigines over there in Australia, Rick, you're at Uluru, so I'm sure you have elders that come through there, and the people probably know some of it. They'll tell you about the history of the crystalline ships that used to fly around in the sky, and they had free energy. And then it all stopped. Well, that stopped during the Civil War when the evil people were trying to cross-dimensionally bring somebody in. And if you watch the movie made in America by John Carpenter of Prince of Darkness, that theory of what they were doing 70 some odd thousand years ago and how they did damage to the Earth is actually in that entire movie is based on that theory from the Necronomicon. John Carpenter wrote that story about what if that was true and it was happening now when he wrote the movie, and that this information was still happening, and the Prince of Darkness was coming back to retry and bring that same being, his father, into this reality. And then there's a suggestion that what if it wasn't actually evil and that up is down and down is up? What if everything that we were taught that is good is actually evil in the universe, and everything that these people knew about, and the reason that the priests were protecting this vat of energy wasn't because it was in fact evil, but good? And that was the theory that one of the priests was talking about during this entire thing that was going on. And if you've never seen the movie, I'm not going to give you the answer as to whether that was true or not. You have to watch the movie to find that out, because it was, and this movie is about the temporal war too. Everything is happening in the future, and the information is being sent on tachyons backwards in time to warn people in the past that event's going to happen in the future. And they're trying to, and these priests have all the same dream the entire time throughout 70,000 years or so of them protecting this thing to try and keep this event from happening in the future. And you should really watch the movie because it's based in real, what people would call folklore on this Earth. But there's a definite, our entire planet flipped over on its axis and is not stabilized since that incident and the stories that came out of that as to why they were doing what they were doing. And that movie was based on that theory that most scientists say actually happened, but we don't know if it had anything to do with a cross-dimensional rift being opened here on the Earth or not, because they can't do it. But CERN's attempting to do exactly that now, here in the future. So where are they basing that idea on of possibly opening up a cross-dimensional Stargate? If it's not from the only place in our history on the Earth where that was talked about, which was in the Necronomicon and the older books that the Necronomicon was based on. Just saying, because we now know that all the incantations and spells that are in the Necronomicon that people say Lovecraft and Leary invented are in fact from the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Illuma Elish. I know that because I've read them. And when I read the Necronomicon, I'm reading them going, I know this. This is the Illuma Elish. I know it is because I've read it. So they didn't make those spells and incantations up at all. They're actual real ones that came from the Dead Sea Scrolls. Scrolls that they still don't want you to know about, even though they were found. And most people have never even heard of the Illuma Elish. Okay? But that's the Mesopotamian scrolls. And it's not just that one story of Marduk defeating Tiamat. There's other scrolls. And those incantations are from the other scrolls in that religion. Okay, so CERN and everything that these people are doing today is only based on that information. They're trying to reenact exactly what was done thousands of years ago that almost destroyed this planet. And if you know anything about what CERN's working on and why they're trying to do this stuff, that the entire Stargate, the movie, and Stargate SG-1, the series, was also based on that exact thing. That same scrolls and theory of a Stargate being opened to be able to go from one place to another. And the Stargate is what is above the pyramids when they're turned on properly. And we know that Ra talked about this, and that the pyramids that were in the Bermuda Triangle and the Dragon Triangle were real legitimate pyramids. And Ra claimed that there a Stargate opens up every now and then when the planetary alignment with the stars is just right. And if any ships or any planes are flying over that at a certain altitude, a certain distance from the top of the pyramid up, they go through a Stargate and never to be seen on this planet again unless it's somewhere in the distant future and they haven't rematerialized yet because we haven't caught up with them. Or they went to another planet. So you should look up Stargate, the movie, and look up Stargate SG-1 and listen to the theory of what they talked about, went on in the past, and what these things did or are doing in the show and in the movie. I would suggest watch the first movie first, and then because there's like 10 seasons or 12 seasons of the Stargate SG-1, and then 2 or 3 spinoffs, Stargate Atlantis, and a couple others that spun off from that. That went out into the universe. So you should watch the movie, the first movie called Stargate. And then you could watch like the pilot movie of Stargate SG-1 and maybe the first season. And you'll have a very good working knowledge as to that theory. And then if you watch Stargate Atlantis and why it's called Stargate Atlantis, watch the pilot movie of that, you'll understand. Most of these sci-fi movies and series that were all based on this knowledge that has been here that CERN is actually working on. So they officially won't say they're trying to do that, but they are saying what they're trying to do. And then there's prophecy about time travel and things. I can tell you one prophecy that talks about them on the East Coast of the United States. Where an event happens and everybody thought that it was the Philadelphia experiment, but it's not. Something happens on the East Coast of the United States, and it actually is this big giant explosion, and it has to do with the same thing. And this is prophecy, okay, that is, I read it 40 years ago. And it is about time travel where they're trying to open up this Stargate in time, and they're working on it in secret, and they again short it out and blow up a whole bunch of stuff, but that creates a ripple in time that changes a lot of things, and that's the only way that we're going to know that they were working on time. And this is supposed to be the same people that are working on CERN, working in a new place on the East Coast underground in a military base that they blow up at some point. And I'm not going to say what is the cause or when or why or any of that, because I don't want to talk about any kind of prophecy that has anything to do with prophetic doom and gloom, because that perpetuates it by people thinking about it. Ashley said, I know it was electricity, but but he was using towers and domes to collect and distribute a usable power source without a generator. He was using power from the earth. Yes. Yes. You're talking about Nikola Tesla, right? So yes, Tesla was onto it, Ash. Tesla was onto it. I'm going to put this up on the screen for those of you who can read it in case my reading wasn't well enough. So Nikola Tesla was onto it. And Stargate had MacGyver. Yeah, I couldn't watch it back then. Yeah, Stargate was, what's his name, who played MacGyver, he plays Colonel O'Neill. People started calling me Colonel O'Neill because of knowing who I am and what I do here. And Colonel O'Neill was very defiant towards these aliens, and everybody thought they were gods, and Colonel O'Neill looked at them like thugs and didn't see them any different than a military outfit from another country, and he would antagonize them. Sound familiar? If you guys know me and what I'm doing on this planet, this is why they were calling me that. And then when he got upgraded to general, everybody started calling me general. There's people that still call me colonel because of that. I don't actually hold the rank of colonel in the U.S. military, but I do hold the rank of colonel, right? General, actually. And so it wasn't too far-fetched from people saying that. So there was one episode where they had an oversight committee from the government and the military coming in to assess whether or not the Stargate program was going to continue. And there had to be an emissary there to watch everything that happened. And one of the so-called gods had opened up the Stargate and was communicating with the humans, and Colonel O'Neill being in charge of the military base. And it's saying, talking smack about the humans, and that if you don't do what we tell you to do, we're going to come and destroy you. And Colonel O'Neill's like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. I hear that all the time. You guys are always telling me there's doom and gloom. You're going to kill us. You're going to destroy us if we don't do what we tell you to do. Shut up and tell me what do you want and what do you want? Otherwise, I'm just going to turn you off and you can go about your business. I got more important things to do than to worry about you. And the guy standing next to him is shitting his pants because he's in a panic. This is a freaking alien god who's threatening to annihilate the earth. And here's the colonel talking to him like he's some freaking schmo on the street corner trying to peddle drugs. And so the guy's like yelling at him again. He's like, will you shut up already and tell me I know? Yeah, you're going to kill us. Tell me what you need. And then he was like, yeah, no, that's not happening. Goodbye. And he hits the button. And the oversight guy turns and looks at Colonel O'Neill and says, should we antagonize him like that? Colonel O'Neill looks at him and goes, yeah, it's what I do. It's kind of what I do. And then he turns around and just walks away. And this guy's freaking out. Now we're going to have these guys parked offshore coming to blow up the earth. And Colonel O'Neill's like, they're always coming here to blow up the earth. You guys just don't know about it, right? So the truth is Nikola Tesla was onto the energy, and he was famous for one of his quotes of saying he wants to thank Albert Einstein and his erroneous theories, because all the proponents of that and his theories were so preoccupied with all of those theories for the grand unified theories in Einstein's theories and furthering that it kept all of the scientists from humanity from going down the path that he went down, which was a very dangerous path. And they're never going to figure out anything by going down that path. So the Einstein saved the universe, whether on purpose or on accident, with all of his theories that kept all of these people until Oppenheimer started figuring it out and then blew up shit. And Werner von Braun was figuring it out, and he refused to give them the information, and they fired him. And he was like, I'm out. And then he gave a really good interview about everything that was going on in the deep state. And those of us at Ancient Aliens Worldwide got a hold of that and played it for the world some 7.5 years ago. Obviously, he wasn't alive 7.5 years ago, but we got a hold of it from back in the day and played it for the world. And it used to be in our archives until it got deleted out of our archives. So I'm saying this to you, and some of you may not be able to find these archives anywhere, but they are out there for you to find the information to see what von Braun said about the future, and everything was being checked off as to exactly up to and including what's happening geopolitically today. That was part of the grand scheme that he already knew about back in the 40s, back in the 50s, 50 years ago, 70 years ago now. Von Braun knew exactly everything that was going to happen geopolitically for the last 70 years and going forward. So those of us who know these things, we already know what's going to happen in the future because they're going by exactly the plan that they had initialized, and they haven't deviated from it except for when people interfere. But they always go back to the exact same plan that they had planned, even when somebody gets in their way. And it's usually a cousin of theirs who doesn't want to not have power, and they go to war with each other. The last 3 great wars on this earth were because of that. World War I, World War II, before that, and then World War I, World War II. The revolution in France, the revolution in Russia, those were all done. Those revolutions were not planned, right? But the wars weren't either. World War I was one cousin tried to assassinate the other cousin because he wanted global power, and they went to war, and he got his ass kicked. Second World War was an extension of that war, but then the people over in the United States tried to fight against the cousin who was trying to take over. If you look at the Habsburgs and the Hohenzollerns, who had the 2 eagle heads on their one facing this way and one facing that way on their family crest, that family crest got separated, and the American eagle faces one direction and the Nazi eagle faces the other direction because they are family members from the Habsburgs and the Hohenzollerns. Okay, that's what the First World War was about. The Second World War was about the same thing. And who was fighting against who in the First World War? The Axis and the Allies. The Americans and their friends with their eagle head facing one direction, and the Nazis and their friends with the eagle head facing the other direction in both those wars. That was a family clan war, both of those. Okay, those were clan wars for vying for by the evil 1%ers who wanted total control of the planet, and some of them didn't want to wait until their cousin died of old age before they got in charge, and so they decided to overthrow their cousin. You can look this up. I'm not making it up. Okay, Danny, welcome. So I don't know if there's any other questions. I didn't have my glasses on, so I apologize. If you guys were asking any other questions, please ask them again so I can see what you guys were asking and address that. So Rick said, in 1977, I was in grade 2. Oh, okay, you're talking amongst yourself. You're not talking about, unless you are, right? The friend, what is that? I asked a friend, Star, he was doing that night. Okay, so yeah, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and press play with Raw, but getting back on point, the structure of buildings actually vibrate at a certain level and do certain things. Okay, all these square structures or rectangle structures are the Fibonacci sequence, and that's masculine Kundalini energy. And all dome shapes, pyramid shapes, and teepee shapes are the spiral energy, which is the Kunda buffer energy, which is the feminine energy. And the feminine energy balances the masculine, because the feminine energy, the spiral, which has now been found on the computers called fractals, the spiral energy is the upper 3 chakras, and the Fibonacci sequence, the squares, the spiral that is the squares is the Kundalini energy, which is masculine. It's the lower 3 chakras. Okay, And so as below, so above. But to balance everything, you have to balance the masculine and the feminine energies together to get the wisdom and the understanding, not understanding, because you don't stand under the bottom 3 chakras. You're understanding it because you're going up to your crown chakra and above. Okay, so if you're living in these structures, and if you look at people who live in structures that are teepee shaped, dome shaped, tent shaped, pyramidal shaped, most of those people throughout history have been more wisdom structures, wisdom political structures, wisdom people. The Greeks were known even to this day for their wisdom. They weren't living in flat, square structures. All of the people who were living in flat, square structures are warlike. Even though the Greeks were warlike, they balanced. Even though they were warlike, they balanced. The Romans, completely 3 lower chakras, warlike. All of their structures are square. Okay, so their people were living in square structures, but the governmental systems and the rich and the elite all live in dome-shaped buildings. They govern out of those. Look at all of the dome-shaped buildings that are more teepee-like. The Russians use those, and further east, and going all the way over to Turkey and the like in the Middle East. All those structures are all teepee-shaped, dome-shaped with points at the top. That if you drive pyramids around them, are these shapes, wisdom. And so traditionally, all of these philosophers and scholars that come from all of those places are very wise. In the West, everybody's barbaric. Why? Because the structures that they live in are barbaric, and the ones that aren't are the thinkers. And guess what? They're in the dome-shaped structures, the ruling class ruling over everybody else. It's not an accident that they build their houses and they build the places that they go to work with dome shapes and pyramid shapes and teepee shaped teardrop, upside down teardrops in all of those structures, and everybody else lives in huts and flat stone masonry structures, wood structures that are square. They do that on purpose because of the low energy and high energy, high table, low table. Okay, so let's continue with Ra talking about that now.
Did you mean that teachers from your vibration or density were able to manifest in the Queen's chamber to teach those initiates? Or did you mean something else? Ra, I am Ra. In our system, experiences in the Queen's chamber position were solitary. In Atlantis and in South America, teachers shared the pyramid experiences. 57.29 Questioner. How did this learning process take place in learning or teaching take place in the pyramid? Ra, I am Ra. How does teach/learning and learn/teaching ever take place? 57.30 Questioner. The dangerous pyramid shape for use today would be a 4-sided pyramid that was large enough to create the King's Chamber effect. Is that statement correct? Ra, I am Ra. This statement is correct with the additional understanding that the 76 degrees apex angle is that characteristic of the powerful shape. 57.31 Questioner. Then I am assuming that we should not use a pyramid of 76 degrees apex angle under any circumstances. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is at your discretion. 57.32 Questioner. I will...
Only if you... Be careful of that equation. Only if you can handle the energy. Let's continue.
Restate the question. I am assuming then that it might be dangerous to use a 76 degrees angle pyramid, and I will ask what angle less than 76 degrees would be roughly the first angle that would not produce this dangerous effect? Ra, I am Ra. Your assumption is correct. The lesser angle may be any angle less than 70 degrees. 57.33 Questioner. Thank you. I want to go on more questioning on the pyramid, but I want to ask a question name has here. I'll throw it in at this.
Yeah, when you get that sharp, again, you're getting away from, Cassie said, so it's dangerous. Okay, good to know, right? Yeah. Yeah. Like worst case scenario in the planet. Remember that in Armageddon? And he's like, oh, okay, so the worst case scenario, so it's bad. So the worst case thing that could possibly happen. Okay, thank you. Remember that? Yes. The reason for that is when you get above 70 degrees, remember that angle is now creating these right angles. So you're getting into the masculine warlike energy. So to stay in the feminine, you have to be below 70-degree curve, because that arch is 32 to it's actually 15 to 69 or 68. And then as you get 69 to 70, when you get to that, it starts becoming a sharp angle of 90 degrees. 90 degrees is that, right? 90 degrees. 70 degrees is that. It's still not the curve. The curve doesn't happen until you get in a softer realm. So the closer you get to that point of a 90-degree angle, right, that you want to stay away from, except for when you're building the pyramid itself. Okay. When you're building the pyramid itself, it's all right angles. But he's talking about if you're building the pyramid too much of that point. Okay. And if you look at the pyramids that are there, like the one in Giza, it's actually at a, well, right now it's hard to say because it's a step pyramid now, only because all of the casing stones that were outside that made it smooth are completely off. But the angle is not a, here's a 90, right? And so where's the 70? It's more like, I think that one is a 48 degrees. I don't think it's above 60, the pyramid itself, but don't quote me on that. But it's still, if it is, it's closer. It's less than 68. It's less than 66 degrees of the pyramid because of that. So when you get it sharper, if it gets too sharp, right? That's why the step pyramids don't do that either. The step pyramids end as well. And so if you look at the steps in that angle, it's still less than that equation. And that's why. So yeah, it's pretty, right? Yeah. So so what are you guys talking about? Need Leo's help? Are you talking about, the under 70 degrees would be good? Yeah. So yeah, under 70 degrees, you want to do less than 68 or less. Because you don't want it to be too right angle-ish with anything. Stairs do that because they're 90 degrees, but it's the outside edge that is measured for the step pyramid. If you superimpose the outside edges as straight, that pyramid that is the step pyramid is the exact same pyramidal structure as the one at Giza. Same mathematical equation. So and Giza is also missing the stones that made it flat, but the step pyramids were designed to be a step pyramid, but the structure that they even showed as Quetzalcoatl's movement is measured by the outside edge of the steps. Okay. So literally, and that's the serpent, the Kundalini energy rising and setting with the sun, the shadow. Rising and setting with the sun. You guys should look into that study of that to see what I'm talking about there. Okay. Yeah, Pyramid Craft Day. That wouldn't be a bad idea, but you guys would need you would need a compass to be able to figure out the angles. Those are pretty inexpensive, or a right angle so that you can see that. Mathematical compass would be the greatest thing to do, because then you can make sure you're not building it more than 68 degrees. You know what I mean? At the angles. So yeah, maybe we should do that and do a workshop and have everybody build a simple one that you can extrapolate out and make bigger. Because if you can build one that's this big, you can just add on to it. Because once you get the angle down, you can take off the base and add longer sticks to make it taller. Do you see? You could do that and figure out the math of how big do I want it for underneath my bed, or do I want to sit in it? Right? Do I want to wear it over my head? What do I want to do with it? So you have to come up with that. Okay. We should look into that. I want to start doing more things along that line to get people. I was talking to Aaron a couple of weeks ago, Aaron Fowler and his wife, last week or the week before now. Time goes by pretty quick, but we're seriously wanting to get things going into this next phase. And those guys have been pushing me, wanting to do it as much as Peter has. And I've been holding back for a long time doing this kind of stuff to move it forward, because I've always been worried that, as soon as the government finds out I'm making money, they're going to cut me off my Social Security. And then it means I have to go back to work. So, now I've written a book, so it's out there and it's selling, which means that it's going to be reported to the government. So now there's going to be a time next year probably, or the year after that, when they're going to cut me off. So I need to start looking at what I can do. I'm taking care of my mother, so I need to start augmenting my money because I need to be able to pay for everything that I'm paying for now being on Social Security. I can go back to work, but if I do, I can't take care of my mother. I literally have to be with her 24 hours a day to take care of her. So I could go to work, but if I do, I can't take care of my mom. So I've made a choice to take care of my mother and stay on Social Security, but I don't need it. I want to get off of that as soon as I can, because the amount of money that you make on Social Security is about the amount of money to starve to death in this country, right? You can't live by yourself on Social Security in this country, not in this modern day and age at all. You need 2 or 3 people on Social Security to be able to pay rent anywhere in this, unless you get out of the coasts and go inland where nobody wants to live. Because they don't, everybody wants to have a house on the coast that costs, those are $5 million, $2 million to $5 million. You have that same exact house in the Midwest, it's $100,000, $150,000, right? So, the rent is even cheaper. But now that everybody's moving away from these states that are occupied by the Democrats, people are being evil and they're charging the same amount over there. So people are hating that people from California are moving to Tennessee because it's raising the rents and raising the prices of houses there, because all these people are used to paying these high prices in California. So the people there don't like people who come from there. I keep my Arizona residency. So when I tell people, when they go, "Where are you from?" Like, I got an Arizona driver's license. So people don't go, "California, oh my God, we don't want you coming here. Don't vote the way you did in California." And I'm like, trust me, I didn't vote that way in California. Okay. So yeah, okay. So let's continue with Raw talking, because we can finish this session today because we're down to 2 minutes and 30 seconds left here. So let's get this going.
Could you please expand on the concept of space/time and time/space and how to get past this, the concept of these things, and at what density level do these concepts no longer affect the individual? Ra, I am Ra. This will be the last full query of this working. This instrument has some vital energy left. However, we become concerned with the increasing distortions of the body complex towards pain. The space/time and time/space concepts are those concepts describing as mathematically as possible the relationships of your illusion, that which is seen to that which is unseen. These descriptive terms are clumsy. They, however, suffice for this work. In the experiences of the
I wanted to point out, I haven't done a commercial for my book yet. I talked about it, I haven't put it up on the screen, but the very first reported sale, I was unaware of this, and I get a hold of my publisher. The very first sale for my book came out of Germany. Somebody in Germany bought my book before somebody in America bought my book. Isn't that crazy? I thought that you guys were the first ones who bought my book. Very first sale came out of somebody in Germany. So whoever you are out there in Germany that bought my book somewhere in late June or very early July, thank you, because you got, I don't know who you are, but you got the first sale. Bought a hardcover. Somebody in Germany bought a hardcover book in Germany, and they have been listed as the very first sale that I've made. I think it's pretty badass. Hardcover. Okay. So let me do a commercial because I haven't done that yet, right? So let me pull up my book here and we'll put it up on the screen and I'll talk about that, right? The reality about reality, returning to the old ways. Weird that my book would be selling more currently, but because here in the political nature of the United States right now, you have the Democrats saying, we're not going backwards and we're not going to go back to the old ways. Nobody who is a progressive or a Democrat wants to buy my book because they think that I'm talking about politics and that I'm somehow selling a book for Donald Trump and about returning to the old ways of politics from when Donald Trump was in office. And I was unaware of that until somebody pointed that out and said, we're not returning to the old ways. And I'm like, you think I'm talking about politics in the religion that you've chosen to defend, and in the side of that religion that you've chosen to defend. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about returning to the old spiritual ways, the way that all of the people like Jesus and Muhammad and Moses and Daniel and all of the Elijah and all these people thousands of years ago were talking about. So I don't care. We're not returning to the old ways is what I was getting from people. They're so obsessed with that now. because of Donald Trump saying we need to go back to the way it was when I was in office, and the Democrats saying we're not going backwards, we're looking forward, that literally it's stifling my book sales, because nobody wants to take the time to figure out what my book is about, because as soon as they see returning to the old ways, they immediately assume I'm their enemy and that I'm a Republican and that I'm selling Donald Trump, and that's what my book is about. And because it's the reality about reality, because nowhere in that title does it say this book is about spirituality. So unless you read what the description of the book is about, or listen to my videos for my commercials that I post, you have no idea. And so they're immediately going, I'm not buying that book. So I will make more sales once this stupid election is over. By the time it ends in November, some of these people will start to relax and some of them won't. Some of these people will never read my book, because the slogans are we're either returning to the ways it was in 2016 or we're looking forward in the future. And because that's what they're arguing about in the geopolitical stance of this country, that there's going to be a lot of people who are spiritual who will never even look at my book, because they're obsessed with believing they're living in the flesh, and they believe that my book is about politics. And even though that talks about politics, but it's obvious, anybody who knows what I talk about knows that I'm not preaching Donald Trump. I'm preaching a way of life that is not that entire religion of evil. So they won't even look at it. I even said to a person a few times, my book is about spirituality. It has nothing to do with this geopolitical power struggle that's going on. I don't care. We're not going back to the old ways. And I was like, so you're not even aware that I'm speaking to you on any other level other than geopolitical power struggle between two wings of the same bird. And she was like, whatever, not going back to the old ways. We're looking ahead. And I'm like, okay, so do you call yourself a Christian? Are you spiritual? That has nothing to do with politics. You're right, and neither does my book. You're saying going back to the old ways. Your book is all about politics. I'm like, is it? Do you know that because you read the description? I'm not even going to read the description. I don't have to. And I was like, okay, so you have a nice little life. You have a nice little life and enjoy yourself, but know that you don't know what you're talking about. No offense. And she's like, I know exactly what I'm talking about, and I will never vote for that man. And I was like, I'm not asking you to. I'm not even suggesting that you do. And I was like, wow. So yeah. So right now, because there's, because of the civil war that is going on politically in this country, because it's an election year, I talked to my brother about that. And I wanted to talk about that. I have the surefire way to solve all problems politically in every country. Okay. Because anybody that knows anything about politics realizes that in an election year, both parties, whatever you call them in your country, run back to the center. The only time anything gets done for the people is in the last 6 months on the run up to your election. Because they all want to go, look, we're doing all these things and we promise we're going to continue doing them when you give us power. And it's the only time that either side actually does any of that shit. And then when they get in power, they go back on that lie, and they don't do it anymore until the next time they need your vote. So the way that we fix this is all elections for every level, city, school boards, city, county, state, a governmental system, whatever you call those in your country, happens every single year on the same day. All of your people in your parliament, 1-year term. And if they want to get shit done, they got to go get revoted in every single year. What that creates is that they are in a constant stage of re-election. They are running for election constantly all year long. And that means that they have to run back towards the center to get your vote. So if you make the election 1 year, they don't have time to turn against all that, because you will still remember it a year from now and vote their ass out of office. So they will have to continue to pander to their voters because they have to get reelected in the next year. I swear in, 12 months fucking later, they got to swear in again. So that'll cut down on the amount of money that they spend on ads, because nobody's going to watch them anymore if there's literally political ads going around 24 hours a day, 365 days out of the year. People are going to turn that shit off and get tired of hearing it, because it's not every 2 years or every 4 years. It's now. Tired of that, turning them off. Don't want to hear it. People are going to vote to make that shit illegal. You're going to fix all countries by having term limits. And then you have other term limits as well. They can only run, like here in the United States, they can run for 2 terms as the president. So they can only run for 8 years, and then they can never run again. That shit needs to be cut down as well. All terms need to be 1 year. You have to revote, and you only get 4 of those, and you're ass out. You can never run again. That means that every person who comes in is only going to get a maximum of 4 years, and they're going to want to have a legacy. So they're going to want to get as much shit done as they can possibly get done in that 4-year time period. And if they work against the people and don't do what the people say, you only have 1 year to throw their ass out. You don't have to wait 4 years, 6 years, a lifetime term to get them out. They're out next year at this time. Write their name down, strike a line through it, and vote somebody else in and give somebody else a try. You don't like them? Write their name down, strike a line through it, and toss their ass out too, until you get people that are in, and then you go, you got 4 years. We'll vote you back in if you keep doing this. Turns the power and takes it away from all of these rich people who are trying to run the world, and turns it into back to the people. And then if they don't do what you tell, then they take the money from the rich people, you vote their ass out. And then you tell the next guy, if you get in, you're going to make it illegal for those rich people to pander to you and pay you money to do that shit. Or we're voting you out too. So that'll force their hand to either have a revolution against the people and try and lock your ass down, which you'll know exactly what's going on. And then you'll revolutionize and you'll throw their asses out of the government, because the people will uprise, or they'll do what we fucking say to do. You have to make it worth their while. Right now, it's not. President gets into office in the United States, they got 4 years. The best thing that goes on in the parliamentary system over in the UK is that at any moment, you can put a vote of no confidence and toss their ass out. Should be that way everywhere. Because then if you just toss people out, the people get tired of it, and they vote out the people who keep tossing everybody out, and start voting in people that are going to actually do something. Okay? So that's the way that you fix these freaking things, is to do that, right? Jenny said, my relatives in Italy got what your book was about right away. Has nothing to do with politics. Thank you. I was unaware of that. Thank you, Denise. Thank them for getting it. That's because they're not over here with this political climate of the United States, where one side is saying we want to go back to the way it was 4 years ago, or 8 years ago, and the other people going, we're not going backwards because we're looking forward. And as soon as they read my cover of my book, The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways, they immediately assume I'm their enemy. Half of the country assumes I'm their enemy, because they assume that my book is about politics and that I'm selling Donald Trump and his ideology. So until after the election is over, there's going to be a good portion of the population of the United States that's just not even going to look at my book until the election's over. And then they're going to go, I'm still not going to look at that, guys. Those are the same people that are going to continue wearing masks until their dying day, because this fake event that happened that was called COVID, that they bought into the fact that this would keep them from getting COVID, because that is no different than that cloth mask that they had on their face during COVID, because I was actually a chemist and was certified for that. And I know that that mask is a sneeze guard to keep blood from going in the mouth of the surgeons. That's it. That doesn't keep out any particulates, and it doesn't keep you from getting any influenza. Those particles go through that mask. So COVID was not being stopped by that mask at all. Not. The only masks that would stop that were the ones that you put over your entire face that have a cartridge that you have to plug into that has a little air hole that breathes through it, or an M95 or one of those. Those were designed to breathe through a filter. Okay? Those little masks, I don't have one here, I'd show it to you, do nothing. I put some of those on when I have to go into a place. I'd put on a gaiter, which is basically putting my shirt up, put on a gaiter so that those people felt good that I was complying. And I would stand 6 feet away from them. But I would always ask, if you got the shot and they tell you you can never get the disease because you have the shot, why are you worried whether or not I have a mask on? Because you can't get the shot. You can't get the disease, right? You got the shot. So what's the worry of whether I have one on or not, or whether I touch you or not? You're inoculated. You can't get it. That's what they told you. Unless that's not true. And you must believe that it's not true, or you wouldn't be worried that I don't have a mask on. Because you got the shot, right? And people were like, get out of here. And I'm like, oh, I am Frankenstein. Do I have little doodads coming out of my neck and a flat head over here with a scar on it? Did somebody put my brain in? Right? Okay. So let's continue, right? I've only read a few chapters of Leo's book. I read the entire thing, and there's probably, I don't know, 15 or 20 annoyances with it's obvious that the editor was using an AI device, because otherwise there wouldn't have been things like one place in a sentence there's the word in twice, in, no comma. Wasn't supposed to be a comma. There was only supposed to be one word in. It got duplicated and it didn't get edited out. And, I had somebody say to me, well, you're supposed to then check the editor and be able to see this. And I'm like, okay, so I had to pay an editor because I don't know how to do that myself and write the book with the wording that needs to be worded in the sentence structure that needs to be sentence structure. I have to pay a professional to do that. So what you're saying is that the professional edits it and I'm supposed to edit the professional. If I knew how to do that, I would have saved more than $3,000 editing the professional. So if I'm reading the book and there's like, 1,000 edits, I'm supposed to read all of those and then catch anything the editor didn't catch. If I was capable of doing that, I would never have had to pay the editor and there wouldn't have been any editing problems, right? But there's a couple of them where the editor obviously didn't read it and it was done by AI, because I was literally saying understand, not understand. And the editor or the AI corrected that to understand, not understand, which I thought was going to be corrected to understand, not understand, because understand is not a proper verbiage. But somehow they programmed that in, but they edited it so that in the book it reads understand, not understand. It's supposed to say understand, not understand. And there's a couple of other things that were slight that most people wouldn't even notice, right? But there are some grammatical things, like Stephanie pointed out, it has the wrong which do you use? Because the word was spelled properly, she suggested the same thing. It must have been AI because the word was spelled right. But if a human read this, which she did, she immediately went, that's the wrong which that should be in that place. Obviously, this was not edited by a human. It was edited by a human who plugged in an AI and let the AI do it. Okay. Unless it was AI assist. Either way, there was not a human reading every word of my novel. It's not a novel, my book, and editing that themselves. It was done on a computer and it was sent to me. And then I went through it and approved it. And I didn't catch some things and they never went back over it again. And they published it that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy an editing program myself, and I'm going to do it so that it's cheaper for my next book, because I'm not going to pay somebody who's using AI that doesn't understand what is being the context of the structure that it's reading. A human would have known that. When I'm reading it, I'm catching things that were edited wrong. And I had to pay an editor to edit my book. That's bad. Then I'm able to catch that stuff, right? Celeste, welcome. So there's a few, it's not real bad, but there's a few that, anything is, I paid, thousands of dollars and they didn't catch them. And they're in the book. That's annoying to me because I paid somebody to do a job that they couldn't fucking do right. And then what they'll say to me is, well, you're the one that approved it. Again, I say, if I knew how to do all of that, I wouldn't need to have paid you. So how is it that I'm supposed to approve something that's your profession to do when I am paying you because I can't do that myself? How am I supposed to identify things that you missed when you get paid to not miss those things? I haven't had this conversation with my publishing company yet, but it's not real bad. There's only a few, and they're annoying to me because I paid them to fix it. and they didn't. Welcome, Celeste. So, okay, so let's go ahead and continue with Raw. But my book's out there, and I just wanted to say, whoever it is that bought my book in Germany somewhere in late June, because it was published on the 26th or 27th of June, and early July, and bought the hardcover, whoever you are in Germany, you got the first sale listed according to my publisher, and because the books have sold since then, but the earliest sale was right after, and it was in Germany. So you guys rock in Germany for buying my book over there, whoever that person was who bought it first. Right? Danke Deutschland. Let's put that up on the screen. Danke Deutschland. Ja, jawohl, danke Deutschland. Wunderbar. Right? I didn't print it in German. My German isn't good enough to type it in German yet. Stephanie and I could probably put it together. She's been, she's like on 100,000 points, experience points in German alone over that on Duolingo. So she's really more fluent than I am. I only have about they took those away off of Duolingo now, so I can't actually tell exactly how many I have. It used to be I could go on there and look at all the languages that I have and see how much experience that I have in that language. Now you don't get to do that anymore. They took that away with the last update a week ago, which drove me nuts. I was like, really? So now I can only gauge what I have by where they are on the listing. Now, if someone jumps over the other list, but I have no idea how much experience I have in each language now. That's really annoying. But German is my second best language. Third best language, because English, this crappy American version, is my first language that I was born with, and then Spanish, and then, or Castilian now, and then German. And then I think Dutch or Norwegian after that. I'd have to look at my list, right? And Ireland my Irish is third on the list, fourth on the list of languages. By the way, Ash, you're over there in Ireland. So I thought I'd bring that up. Peter, if he's still here. But Peter knows that because I talk to him in Irish all the time. When we stopped doing it in public, but he used to do it in public in the chats, and then I would answer him in Irish, and people are like, "What are you guys talking about?" Sorry about that. Peter's tired or been drinking, he forgets to talk in English. Yes, Ash, you can go to Amazon, the UK, and you can buy it. You can get it from there. Somebody just linked me that because I had sent them a link from. I posted on a discussion board my link to my publisher, and she said that link doesn't work in the UK. So I gave the Amazon link for the UK, and you can get it there. So you can just go amazon.com.eu and look up the reality about reality, returning to the old ways. And it comes up and it shows you how much in pounds, at least not in euro, but it also comes up in euro if you do it .eu instead of .uk. So both Amazon in your country and the United Kingdom. So either EU, if you're using your European Union money, or if you're wanting to use the sterling, then you can do a UK. But it is up on on that site in both those countries, but others as well. Right, Barnes and Noble in that country as well. You can find it there. So yeah, so that way you don't have to worry about the conversion or having it shipped from America, right? And so yeah, but it works out to be the same cost. Just you don't have to pay as much for the shipping. Obviously, instead of having it come from the United States, it comes from Amazon over there instead of over here. So I pay them to have it over there for you. So they take some of the profit from me to give it to you, so the cost of shipping that goes to you is augmented by my profit, which is okay as long as you guys are buying it and you guys get to read it. Okay, so you're welcome. All right, so let's continue with, and it's around the world everywhere. I find it in languages I don't even understand, right? There was in the Philippines, Korean, South Korean, because it's banned in Russia, China, North Korea, anywhere that's a communist country. I can't sell my book. They don't want people knowing about it because it's about spirituality. So it'll be banned in Canada next year when you guys go full commie, possibly here in America when America goes full commie in a year or two. England's trying to go full commie. So if you're going to get it in the UK, you should buy it now because they're already starting to try and arrest you for what you're thinking and arrest you for saying bad words. So they're going full commie in the next few years unless you guys vote it out. which means you won't be able to get my book over there because it's about spirituality, and they're going to abolish all of your spiritual awareness. Australia, you guys might want to buy it soon too, because you guys are going to be taking away your religion in the next 3 or 4 years over there too, as they slap down the controls unless you guys vote them out. Just saying, right? Your guys' choice. You guys can believe me or not. Let's continue with Raw.
Search for unity. These need never be considered, for they are but part of an illusory system. The seeker seeks the one. This one is to be sought, as we have said, by the balanced and self-accepting self, aware both of its apparent distortions and its total perfection. Resting in this balanced awareness, the entity then opens the self to the universe which it is. The light energy of all things may then be attracted by this intense seeking, and wherever the inner seeking meets the attracted cosmic prana, realization of the one takes place. The purpose of clearing each energy center is to allow that meeting place to occur at the indigo ray vibration, thus making contact with intelligent infinity and dissolving all illusions.
Stephanie, that's just like the Castilian Spanish, right? Spanish isn't that hard. Spanglish over here, Mexican and Spanglish here in the United States is a lot like American English is to England. But the weird thing is, and you guys over there in Ireland are the same way. You guys over there, the biggest thing you have against us Americans is that we over accentuate when we say the words, because we say them weirdly more proper now than England does with their own words. So when everyone's like, well, the proper English is from England, and I'm like, I don't know anybody in England who speaks proper English. Everybody over there speaks their Cockney English, and they say we Americans have American slang, but we enunciate our words far more meticulously, and it drives you guys crazy in Ireland and in the UK because no one over there articulates their words. But you would be surprised that this version of English that I speak here is what they use on the newscasters and in movies, which is the I come from nowhere, I come from everywhere English. The people over here don't speak like this the way I talk. The average Joe doesn't talk like this at all. They talk a little bit more like you guys do over there. We have our own accents over here, and I've done them on the air before, with the accents like from England with that ruddy, West English accent from England, where that is nowhere near. And then you guys over there in the UK, you guys have several too, because you have the West Coast that nobody understands, just like and then the East where they're a little more meticulous. The South and the North, you guys notice the difference as well. Like Peter's accent compared to your guys is there, Ash, where you guys are in the North. Your accent is a little bit more Englishanized than the South, and definitely from the West. Right? I love how everybody laughs about the people in the West. My family's from there, from Tyrone and from Cork. So the accent that we have, our Irish accent over here, that is mixed with this Southern drawl that we have that is American, comes out of that accent and over there, and you guys just look at us like, what the hell are you saying, right? So I get that, right? So we have the same thing here in the Deep South. The accent's so thick that people have a hard time understanding it. They have to put subtitles on the television screen for our television shows. If you don't believe me, Google Swamp People and watch that and see if you understand what they're saying. And that's that what we call mush mouth. That's that deep Southern Louisiana accent that's really hard for people to understand. And the reason we call it mush mouth is because literally, if you put mash or grits in your mouth and then talk, it sounds like that. And they're a little bit more. They talk in the front of the mouth, and the jowls are loose when they talk. Right? You have a proper Southern accent, which is reminiscent. You guys in the UK would see it as reminiscent, with a French hint of the English, with this accent right here coming from the South, from Louisiana and that sort of area of the United States. And then when you go a little bit north, up into Kentucky, the accent changes slightly as you get to the north. And then when you head east, it changes a little bit more. And then you get it over there towards the Boston area, and it gets more Scottish sounding, right? So you're going to park the car in Boston, your cousin from deep south, South Boston, Westy Boston, and then you have the Italian influence of the New Yorkers. Hey, what are you talking about over here? Hey, listen, I'm trying to tell you something over here, and you're not listening to me. So you have this accent that is a Bostonian accent mixed with an Italian, French Italian accent as it moves a little southern. Over here in the United States, you guys have that same stuff that goes on over there, but the official languages are difficult. Official English is hard to speak. Official German is hard to speak. Official, Castilian is hard to speak. And then when you hear people with their slang, you go, wait, now I don't understand that, right? So I grew up learning Mexican Spanglish, what we call that here in California or in the United States, which is half English, half Spanish, Spanglish, and that's what Mexican kind of is. And there's this influx as the further south you go in the United States, in California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas, where you have this a lot more people from the central, Mexico, Central America, and South America up into the United States. You get this language that is, you can see how it's morphing into this American language, and it's hilarious, right? So, right, yeah, I think African now has 500 languages. Yeah, I mean, Africa, because there's so many countries that they all have different languages. Then you have dialects, north, south, east, and west, in just like you have in everywhere else. So the words get jumbled around. People say them differently depending on where they are, and you can tell where a person's from by their dialect, by the language that they speak, right? Okay, so let's continue with the law of one. But yeah, that's funny, right? What did Celeste say? She said, Celeste, you're right. What did Celeste say? I'll have to go back. I didn't have my glasses on, so I wasn't paying attention, right? Grew up in New York, right? Right? Borough has its own accent. Yeah, right. Every borough has its own accent. No, you're absolutely right. And it does. So there's a generic that people use, right? And I did that, used that Italian New York accent, telling a story to Italians about my godfather's best friend, who is Don, and his name was Don, so everybody called him Don, because he was a Don, and his name was Don, so they called him Don. And he had this story of just being with him, and with him for like a day. My stepfather was in the hospital and might have had a heart attack. My mom was at the hospital, and Don's wife was staying with my mom while they were waiting to find out what was going on with my stepdad. And we were getting in their way. So they told us to go do something. And on the way there, Don was backing out of a restaurant stall, and this guy crashed into his car, and they exchanged information. And Don was tripping on it because if he reported it to his insurance was going to go up. So he didn't want his insurance to go up. So he got this bright idea to go and find this guy. And turns out this was an African-American guy. And he wanted to go find this guy so he could pay the guy off, so he wouldn't report it to his insurance, so it wouldn't go on Don's insurance. And we had to go find this guy, and he had no idea of where the guy would be. And so we went to his house, and he wasn't there, and we were driving around looking for him, and we went back to his house. Oh my God, it was hilarious, the shit that we got into. And I was telling the story later on to a whole bunch of Italians on Don's birthday, his whole family and friends, all these freaking mob guys. And here I'm the Irish guy. And if anybody knows anything about the mob and the mafia here in the United States, I'm going to tell the story because you guys are going to die. This is a true story. It really happened. Okay. It really happened. So the Irish, if you guys saw the movie, read the book Westies, or saw the movie, and a few other ones, I forgot what they were called. They were about the mob in the United States and the Irish mafia, and how they got intertwined, and the Irish ended up working for the Italians because the Italians basically took over. And before the Italians got here, the Irish mafia was in charge. And since then, the Italians went into politics. So the Irish mafia restarted up about 40 years ago now. I know the guys who started it. It started in the neighborhood that I lived in. And now they started the Young Irish Mafia, which has now taken over from the Italians, and there was a lot that was going on with that. I'm not going to get involved in that, but the older Italians made peace with the younger and older Irish guys so that they wouldn't go to a civil war here in the United States, because the Asian gangs and now the Mexican gangs are moving in. So those guys made peace and they stayed working together. But there was a time in the 1970s where there was a war that went on between the Irish mafia and the Italian mafia here in the United States. So now everything is copacetic because they're now worried about the Asian gangs and the Mexican gangs that are here in the United States. So this is, now we're talking about 15, 20 years ago now. And this happens, and I'm with Don, and he's, hey, Leo, let's go find this guy. Okay. We got to go find this guy. I want to see if we can pay him off. All right. Because I don't want this going to my insurance. You know how that could be if it goes to my insurance. You guys are going to die. So I said, okay, so we go looking for this guy. And I'm telling this story to them afterwards because I said to them, now I understand, as an Irish guy, I understand how you guys get into trouble, how you guys get into trouble, the mafia, because you're not always going to cause trouble. You guys are trying to solve a problem, and it turns into trouble because of your guys' reputation. And they're all just, at this point, they're going, so what? And Don's going, no, this really happened. You guys listen to what Leo's telling you. This is real. So we go look for this guy, and we can't find him. And so we go back to his house, and we go up on the elevator, and we're in this, because he's in this apartment complex on the 3rd floor, but it's open, and the doors are, we got to walk along the big walkway and go over to his door. And there's a television on, and we're knocking on the door, and the window's open a crack. So Don's talking in the window, hey, whatever the guy's name was, I know you're in there. Hey, listen, I want to talk to you. Come out over here so we can talk, okay? Hey, listen, are you there? I know you're there. I can hear the TV. And I said, well, hey, Don, what does this guy look like, right? It's hard to do it without the accent because I was not using the accent when it was being me. Don, what's this guy look like? Oh, okay, hey, Leo, he's driving this car. It's this old, beat-up shit fox, the Ford POS, piece of shit something or other, and it's this green color, and he's the skinny black guy. He's about 60 years old, okay? So that's what he's driving. So I'm turning around. Now I'm like a guard. I'm standing with my back to Don, right? And it's wintertime, so we're wearing long trench coats. This is not a joke. This is right out of a movie. I'm standing here looking around at people, and they look at me, and I'm going, hey, what are you looking at? Get out of here over here. You got nothing to see here. And people are walking, looking at us and going, wait, these guys are freaking mob guys. And I look down, and I can see out to the street past the courtyard, and this guy pulls up in the car, and I said, Don, is that the car? And he goes, Leo, that's the guy. Come on, quick, get to the elevator. So now we're running all the way down this walk to get to the elevator, and it doesn't come fast enough, and running down the stairs, 3 flights of stairs, and we're running across the lawn. This guy sees us come running up. We look like a couple of Goombas. He starts getting scared, and Don goes up to the window. I swear to God, Don's standing now, and the guys are on the side of the road, and it's a 2-lane road right there. And so now I'm standing in the middle of the road looking for traffic like I'm a freaking bodyguard to the Don, who's over here trying to talk to the guy, and he rolls the window down a crack. And Don's putting his lips, hey, come out. Hey, I want to talk to you. Say, listen, did you talk to your insurance company already? Because I don't want to go to the insurance man. And the guy's like, what are you trying to talk about? He's scared now. He's shitting his pants thinking that we're going to kill him or something. And Don's like, listen, hey, how about I give you money instead? He goes, well, I already reported it to my insurance. He goes, okay, listen, you call the insurance right now and tell them that you want to change a heart and you don't want to report that. And we'll get that taken off and we'll get that taken care of and I'll get you some money, okay? And the guy says, how much we talking? And he says, how about $250? And the guy says, how about $400? Don says, oh, you're funny. You're a funny guy. No, I'm not paying you no $400 freaking dollars for that. I'll tell you what, I'll go up to $300. They're negotiating. I'm in the middle of the street directing traffic. Go around. What are you looking at? Go around me over here. What do you just honk the horn? I'm going to come over there. Don't make me, I swear to God, this is real. Don't make me come over there. I will take you out of your car and I will beat you in front of your wife. Get going. And they're driving off and Don's ignoring me. He's just like, this is normal for him that some guy's going to stand here and do what I'm doing. And I'm the bodyguard for the Don boss over here. Well, he's negotiating to pay a guy off. Shit you not. This guy's scared to death. Don says, okay, I'll tell you what. The guy calls, and then he says, all right, come with me. Don says, I don't have the cash on me. I'm going to take you back to my house and write a check. This guy's freaking out thinking we're going to whack him now. I swear to God, guys, this is a true story. I swear to God. So Don says, come on and get in my car. And the guy is pale white now. He says, are you going to bring me back? Don says, yeah. What do you think? I'm going to whack you? I'm like, oh my God. Right. And he says, he goes, okay, well, you're going to bring me back, right? Yeah, we're going to go over them and write you a check. We're going to drive you back to your car. We'll drop you off. Everything's going to be fine. So we go to get in the car, and I say to him, you want to sit in the back? He goes, no, I'm okay. No, he says, I said, you want to sit up front? And now I didn't think about that because that puts me behind him, right? Which is the perfect position if we're going to whack a guy, that I get behind him and then you shoot him in the back of the head. He says, no, I'll sit behind you. So I get in the car, and then I realize I made it worse by trying to sit behind him. He's shitting his pants, thinking we're going to take him out and whack him. He actually says, are you guys going to kill me? And Don says, what are you, stupid? No, I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to pay you off, man. I don't want to kill you. Oh, my God, Leo, he thinks I'm going to kill him over here. I'm not going to whack you. This is not the 70s. We don't just whack people anymore, okay? And then his phone rings. And he gets on the phone and he goes, yeah, no, I got the guy right now. We're coming to the house. Oh, my God. Now it looks like if we're lying to him and that he's going to freaking get whacked at the house. And he's starting to get scared. And I'm like, relax. Everything's fine, right? And then he goes, okay, hey, Leo, listen. I'm going to be with this guy for a minute. How about we take you back over to the hospital and drop you off? Because I know you got to worry about your mom and your stepdad, right? And the guy's like, wait a minute, you're going to take me to take him to the hospital and drop him off? Why? And he goes, what do you think, I'm going to whack you again? You don't have very far to go if I'm going to whack you. We're going to the hospital, so you're going to probably make it if I try to shoot you in the parking lot, okay? I swear to God, this is exactly what really happened, guys. That poor guy, I know, Cassie's like, that poor dude, he's scared to death. He's in the back seat. And I'm like, no, my stepdad had a heart attack. At least we think we did. We don't know for certain. And Don, are you going to be okay? Now I'm the Goomba again. Hey, boss, you going to be okay? You going to be okay with this guy? Hey, no, you heard me on the phone, Leo. I'm going to the house now. So somebody's at the house waiting, so he's not worried that this guy's going to beat him up, but this guy thinks that he's walking him into death, and they're going to bury him in the Tulies. Oh, my God. So literally that happens. He doesn't die. And he goes and he ends up giving the guy $400 because he felt so bad because the guy was about to pee himself. So he writes him a check for $400 and takes him back. I find this out when he comes back. But I have plenty of time to think about this. So at his birthday, with his entire family, I told that story and I said, I see why you guys get into trouble, because Don was oblivious to how much this guy thought he was getting whacked. And he was like, what are you, stupid? What do you think I'm going to whack you? And his whole entire family was like, it was the Goodfellas. And I was telling the story and I was Joe Pesci. And I'm over here going, and then I pulled my gun out and said, what are you, stupid? I'm going to shoot you. Get out of the way. And I put my gun down and they were dying laughing. And I was like, even me telling you guys this story is like watching the Goodfellas. And they really are like that. They really are like that. And these guys were really those guys. They were wise guys. So they were just loving every second of me because I was like the Irish hit guy who was the bodyguard for the Don. I kept him okay and made sure he made it. And they were happy because he was their Don. So they thought it was just a normal story that they all tell each other. And I was like, I see how you guys get in trouble. You guys get in trouble and people get killed because stupid shit happens. And you guys are just trying to go, hey, look, I'll pay you off. And then people start going, they're going to kill us. And then they start pulling out guns and the mob guy's going to kill everybody. True story. Oh, my God. I love that story, but there's no embellishment. I wish I could. You can't embellish that. That's a scene out of a movie. I told the guys that. This is a scene out of a movie. The only thing that would have changed that is if his friends would have shown up and we had a shootout and I ended up having to kill some people. That would have been the only way that would have been a movie from, or could have been worse. Oh, my God. It's hilarious. Right? Yeah, you schmuck, right? I think I even called the guy that at one point because he was honking at me. I'm in the middle of the road. And I'm like, go around me, bro. I'm like, what the hell is your problem? Don't make me come over there. I'll pull you out that car and I'll beat you in front of your wife. Drive the fuck around me. I'm yelling at him. And as I was doing it, I was like, oh, my God, I'm becoming this Italian mob guy right here in front of everybody. Oh, my God. Right? I know. Yeah. Reach it. Yeah. right? Yeah, Ash says, "Good job, you didn't reach for the glove box, right?" Or go in my pants right here or back here. You know what I mean? But yeah, that was so funny. I'm like, will you just go around me? Don't make me come over there. And now all of a sudden I'm Italian. I'm going to pull you out that car and I'm going to beat you in front of your wife. Go the frick around me, you idiot. And the guy drives around me and he's looking at me and I'm like, what? You want to pull over? I'll talk to you about this. And of course he wasn't going to, because what he saw was two mob guys wearing long leather trench coats talking to some guy, and it looked like we had guns. I'm pretty sure Don had guns on him. I didn't have a gun on me right then, but I'm usually walking around with a gun on me. Not that day. So that's totally crazy, but it really, oh my God. Right? It is totally like a movie scene. And I didn't make that up. I wish that I had written that. That's a great movie scene if you write it. Right? And I could see ways that could have gone south. We were driving around, going into bars. I didn't even tell you that part. We were going, hey, you've seen this guy, right? His name is, and he has written on a piece of paper, two Goombas walk into a bar. That's like a beginning of a joke or a scene from a movie. We went to like 3 or 4 different bars and 2 restaurants looking for this guy, and then ended up at his house. I shit you not. Hey, listen, I'm looking for this guy. He's a black guy, drives this piece of shit, foxed up Ford that's got dents and scrapes and shit all over it. Just got in an accident today. I'm the guy that got in an accident. I want to talk to him, and his name is, hold on, I got it written down here. Anybody know this guy? I swear to God, that Don was he was doing that, and people were telling us stuff. Oh, hey, that's he's usually at the other bar at this time of day over here, and if he's not there, he's over there. All right, you guys, thanks. All right, and he's giving them here. Here's $100 for you, $100 for you for telling me this stuff. Okay, and so then we go to the next bar. I swear to God, it was right out of a movie, and I'm in it, living it, and then I took on the role of his bodyguard. I was the Goomba in the freaking situation. And he, the whole time, was oblivious that what he was doing was in any way looking like a mob boss doing exactly what he was doing. Oh my God. And I was like, and he's a mob boss doing that. But to him, it was just normal. It was just everyday thing that you do. You give money to people for telling you information. Hey, listen, anybody know where this guy is? There's $100 in it for whoever's got to know where he's at. But I'm telling you, you tell me the wrong place and I go there and I find out that he ain't there and that you lied to me, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to talk to you about that. And we're going to have a problem. You understand that? I'm just like, oh my God, he's Joe Pesci. But it was really happening. So when I told that whole story and gave them all of that, oh my God, all the mob guys were just, and Don was doing that whole thing, and I was his bodyguard, and they just loved every second of it, like they were watching a Scorsese movie, and it was true story, right? And I'm just like, oh my God. And then they were laughing because I'm a good storyteller because I'm Irish. Right. So on top of it, you should be making movies, Leo. Oh my God, you're funny. You should be up on stage telling this story to people. They would laugh their asses off. They told me I should be a comedian and use this shtick, and I never did. But I've told the story at parties, and I'm like, you can't make this up. I didn't write this. It's not a joke. This is a true story. Okay. Sorry for getting off the thing, but that's just one of those memories that popped into my head right then, and I had to tell you guys that story about that incident that happened. And I left out some of the details. Like I said, we were going to bars and I was like, next thing we're going to be kicking in doors. And there we were at this guy's apartment. And I thought Dom was going to break the window or kick in the front door. And then I turn around and I'm watching in case he's doing that. And then I see the guy pull up, right? And he's like, come on, let's go. He's right there. Get him. Come on, get down there before he takes off. Oh my God. A couple of Goombas running through the neighborhood with freaking guns hanging off of them and drawing trench coats, yelling at people. Right when they're getting in the way, get out of the way. I'm telling you, you don't want to piss me off. Just go around me, man. I come over there, there's going to be death. Someone's going to die. Okay, go. Craziness. Okay. All right, let's go. Let me do the rest of this darn thing here and stop screwing around.
Service to others is automatic at the released energy generated by this state of consciousness. The space/time and time/space distinctions, as you understand them, do not hold sway except in third density. However, fourth, fifth, and to some extent, sixth, work within some system of polarized space/time and time/space. The calculations necessary to move from one system to another through the dimensions are somewhat difficult. Therefore, we have the most difficulty sharing numerical concepts with you and take this opportunity to repeat our request that you monitor our...
Right, Cassie, or worse, Cassie said, and before you go to the house, I need you to stop and get some bleach in plastic bags. Oh my God, right? And then that couldn't have gotten worse unless he made some comment about that. And I'm like, hey, it's okay, boss. We got that stuff in the back. Remember, we had that from yesterday, right? Oh my God. Yeah, hey, yeah. When I'm going to drop you off over there I'm going to go to the house and listen. Before you come, hey, I want you to go check on your dad, and then I want you to go to the store and get some bleach in plastic bags and meet me at the house. Oh my God, that would have been just bad, right? That's when that guy would have known. But there was a couple times when I looked at him in the mirror or looked over my shoulder, and he was white as a ghost, and he honestly thought that his life was in danger. And I felt bad for him, and I was trying to go, bro, but he just wasn't believing anything that we were saying. He just knew he was not going to make it out alive because he crashed into the wrong guy. And then tried to extort him. And so now he's going to get whacked. And he believed that. I even actually had to check with Don. You didn't kill that guy, right? No, Leo, I gave him a check. I paid him off, man. We don't just kill people anymore. That's just not what happens. I'm like, you don't kill anybody? Well, not not over something that stupid. That's how you go to jail. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't want to know what that means. Right? Oh, my God. That's just wrong, but funny. Okay, let's continue. We've got 30 seconds.
Numbers and query any that seem questionable. Is there a brief query that we may answer before we leave this instrument? 57.34 Questioner. Is there anything we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or improve the contact? Ra. I am Ra. All is harmonious. We greet you all in joy. The adjustments are satisfactory. I am Ra. I leave you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite creator. Adonai.
Right, fat bastard. Oh my God, that's funny. Stephanie mentioned that, and Rick is talking about that. Right, that character was hilarious. I used to do impersonation of that character, and my niece loved my impersonation of fat bastard forever. If I do it now, she laughs her ass off. If I do that, I could walk in and just go, ooh, I'm sexy, and start grabbing my nipples. Right, ooh, my nipples are hard. Ooh, give me a baby. You look like a baby. I want my baby back, baby back, baby back, right? And she'd go crazy. That was a great character. He was hilarious, out of control. And, I have pieces of corn bigger than you sticking out of my ass, right? Oh, my God. Turtle head sticking out of my ass. Love that. He did it with that weird Scottish accent that, what's his name did? Mike Myers did that. I think it was supposed to be a Scottish accent, but it was sort of that Scotch-Irish, American-Canadian version of an accent that was not as thick as a good Scottish accent, but not as thin or not as thick as a good Irish accent. It was sort of right there in the center, so it was generic, fat, Irish Scottish guy. Oh my God, that was hilarious. That was a good character. Okay. So sorry about that, guys. I know that some of you out there who are listening are like, oh my God, he's gone off the rails and gone over the hill. So I apologize for that. But so the energy of all of these things balance, you have to realize that these structures, everything vibrates at a resonance. So the shape of a building structure. That's why people were living in caves, and they tried to get people out of caves because most caves were shaped like dome shaped, and that changes the resonance. And then when you're in nature with this resonance of what's going on, Peter, welcome, brother. I don't know how much of that you heard. You probably heard the fat bastard part right there at the end, right? I've never had Peter do that. I wonder how good his fat bastard is, because he's got that really thick accent of his Irish accent that he has. I bet he could do a good fat bastard, but you're far too skinny to be a fat bastard. But it still would be funny. So the energy of all structures and the shape of the structures resonates with the energy that you have. And if you're not aware of it, then you live within the structure and you live within that resonance of that energy. And if you're in the United States, it's square. It's a rectangle at best. You don't have any circular. You don't have any, teepee-shaped, dome-shaped, bell-shaped. None of that. And if you think that's wrong, then look at the structure of every parliamentary building around the world, and look at every palace from every rich person in history around the world, and look at the structure of all the governmental systems currently and where they meet, including the United Nations. They're all in a dome-shaped building, all of them. Why? Oh, well, because it has nothing to do with anything besides the dome shape means regalness. Look it up. It's a vibration. Vibration of power is that shape. Vibration of awareness is that shape. They're casting spells in a building with that shape that resonates with the spiral energy. Okay? You should look into that stuff. And they're keeping you with low ceilings, square and oblong, or square and rectangle buildings, because it's the lowest possible vibration. They don't even want you in tents, because tents have a pyramidal structure, or a teepee has a TPL structure, which is the spiral energy of the feminine wisdom energy. That's why the people who lived in those traditionally were very wise and very spiritual. Think about all the cultures, and think about the people, the Bedouins in the Middle East, the natives all around the world, in the Americas, living in teepees. Very spiritual people, very, to this day, very prone to spirituality in a wise way. Why do you think they want everybody out of those structures and into log cabins in the United States? Because they're square. Easier to control, more warlike, more aggressive, masculine kundalini energy, not feminine kunda buffer energy. Not living in caves, not living in any smooth structure. It's all right angles, 90 degrees. Square ass. What? Stephanie said square ass. I'm not sure what that was a reference to, but that was perfect timing. Square ass buildings, right? The only angled room that I have is in my house. This is Stephanie talking. She says the room where I keep my television, the TV room, and that's not a square room, right? So that's good for you that it's not, right? That's odd, because my dream is to open Axe Healing. What is that? AX Healing Center, or A, but you hit the X on accident, right? A healing center. Where were you saying that, Rick? I had that. Oh, a healing center that's round and pitched, huh? So instinctively, Rick, you were wanting to open a healing center, and you were designing it instinctively in your head to be round with a pitched roof. Think about that. I mean, you did, because you went, right? Acupuncture, is that what you're saying? Yeah, acupuncture. Acupuncture is energy centers. There are many chakras in the body. You have the 7 major arcana, and then there's 60 minor arcana, energy centers, chakra centers in your body. In just the spinal column, there's 33. Every joint, you have 12 in your fingers, because you have knuckles, 3 on each finger, plus the thumb. So that's 3, 6, 9, 12 just for those 4 fingers, and then 1, 2, 3 for your thumb. It's 15 per hand. Your wrists, your elbows, your shoulders, your waist, your knees, your ankles, your toes. Everything that moves is a chakra. Okay? Everything that moves is a chakra center. And then you have the ruling class, the major arcana, the 7 major arcana. All other chakras work with the endocrine system, which is connected to your spinal system, the spinal fluid. So in my book, there's one point where I talk about the oil being going through the process of 67 chakras, energy centers. And no one's asked me the question, because no one's probably gotten that far in the book to ask me that question. What are those 67? The 67 I'm referring to is the energy centers of the spinal column, and the 2 energies that go down the 33 vertebrae mix as one energy. So you have you have 33 times 2 is a 66, but then it's actually more than that when you look at the 7 major arcana. But when you're going through the 7 major arcana, they're attached to the rest, so it's 67 major or all your chakras throughout your body. And so if you add them all up, the even the minor ones below that, which are attached to your knuckles, because if you got 15 and 15, that's 30 just in your hands. And then you have, right, 2 wrists, 2 elbows, 2 shoulders, right? So that's 30, 32, 34, 36 just in your arms. And then you have your feet. How many knuckles do you have in your toes? And then the large knuckle, just like you do in your hand, plus so you have another. So it's actually more than that. It's up to 128 when you do all of the chakra centers that go all the way down to the endocrine system in your body, which is the organs and everything else, and ends up being your jaw moves, your neck moves, right? Do you see? So everything that moves is a chakra center, and that ends up being approximately 128. And 128 is a multiple of 3, multiple of 6, and a multiple of 9, right? And 1 plus 2 is 3, right? And that's 8, 9, 10, 11. So that goes up to one of your ascended master numbers, 11, 22, 33. So then the 11 goes down to the 1 once again. So 128 is what, right? So the number again is multiples of 3, 6, and 9, but it's also the multiple of 8, right? Which is crazy when you do that kind of math from the Pythagorean ideology of Pythagoras, and all of the math that goes into that. But that's your entire body. That's the tree of life. And in the tree of life, they currently have 10. Originally, there were 7. They realized 10, and they're going to go to 12. Then they're going to find their way to 13, and then 14, and then 15, and then that's going to go up to 24. And once it goes up to 24, then you're going to get to 144, right? So it's going to go past 128 up to 144. But now we're talking 5D into 6D, and the human race won't reach that understanding or understanding of might get to 128, but people are just now getting to 12. No one knew anything above 12. People are now starting to realize the 12. 20 years ago, people just were barely at 9, and that was pushing it from the 7 major chakras. And if you look at originally the 7 plagues of Egypt, and now there's 10. Well, that's because the arcana went from 7 to 10, and so all the tree of lives went from 7 to 10, and now they're moving to 12 because they're realizing 3, 6, 9, 12 chakras. So the tree of life has to upgrade to the chakra centers that are being realized by the human race. 40 years ago, no one knew 12. They were lucky to know 3, 6, 9. But some of the people knew 10, right? Because of the tree of life, according to the Hebrews and the Egyptians and the Asians, were 10. If you look at the tree of life to the Vikings, they actually were already at 10, but people weren't counting that. They weren't counting the connections of the Rainbow Bridge, and they weren't counting the birds that are the ruling factors that oversee things, the eagle and the crow, that are involved in the tree of life. If you look up Yggdrasil and all of the worlds that are involved in that, and the tree itself. I put out a meme reel on that shows you the tree of life in all their guises, and the tree of life to the Vikings, and then the human physical body in the endocrine system. And how if you count the organs in the body, there's 10. Right? Because you have the eyes, you have the mouth, you have the throat, you have the heart, you have the lungs, you have the stomach, you have the liver, you have the genitals. Count all of the organs, and there's 10. Don't forget the skin is also an organ, right? So is the tongue. is an organ. So when you count them, you end up with 12, not 10. So if you count the tree of life and you count the tree itself, right? So even the Hebrew tree of life is 10, not counting the tree itself. So they're already at 11, and now they're starting to add sub ones off of an in between. So they're starting to realize 12, and they're going to end up realizing that they're in all the other places, and they're starting to do that with a lot of those. When you look up your tree of life online, and some of these people start giving you the tree, they start all of a sudden there's almost 24 now. They're up to 22 in some places. That's the expansion of the consciousness. And I know that some of you may not be following what I'm saying here, but some of you will be getting that. Okay. So that stuff is coming in the future. By 2032, there's that number 32. By 2032, 2032, right? That's an even number. 2 plus 2 is 4 plus 3 is 7, right? But it's an even number year 2032, but it's one of those dual aspect years because the base root is 7 for 2032. 2 plus 0 is 2, plus 2 or plus 3 is 5, plus 2 is 7. So the actual number for 2032 is a 2 number, so it's a positive number, but when you add the numbers up, it's a negative. They always counterbalance back and forth. Negative becomes a positive, positive becomes a negative. It's the way the universe works in the circular manner of the universe: physical, spiritual, physical, spiritual, physical, spiritual. Everything works that way. This is 2024, right? It's a positive number. 4 is a positive number. It's not 5 or 7 or 3, right? 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 4 is 8. And that's a double feminine. It's a double positive number. 2025, 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 5 is 9. It's a physical, but it's a manifestation of the infinite 9 number. Do you see? So in the physical number, it switches. The physical aspect of 2025 is masculine, but when you add the numbers up, it becomes the number 8, which is feminine. 2024 is the opposite. 2024 is a positive. When you add them up, it becomes a 7. 7 becomes 8, 8 becomes 9, 9 becomes 0. So the physical switches back and forth. When the year is physical, the spiritual is the addition of the numbers. So it's always rounds itself out, physical and spiritual. Every year, it just flips what is governing what portion of the psyche of you, of the world, of the universe. Most people don't get that. I'm writing about that in my current book that I'm currently writing, which will be out in a few years, 2 or 3 years. Okay, I'm going to get off here and go because we finished this session. It's getting later. It's 5:30. I went on for like 25 minutes telling a story, which I probably shouldn't have done, but it was funny. For those of you who were there to witness it, it was actually funny. If you were there in real life when that took place, you would have been doing the same thing. You'd have been putting your hand over your head going, really? Is this really? Hopefully nobody dies here, because this is on the verge of turning into a Scorsese movie where people start having a shootout. But in real life, things like that don't happen very often. There's not as many shootouts. They do happen because, like, if you watch the movie of Casino, that happened in real life. That was real. The Goodfellas happened in real life too. That was real. Those were movies based on real events. Westies was also a real movie that happened. It was real life. It happened back on the East Coast during that time when they tried to take out Whitey. And then the other fight, not just Bulger, but the other fight with the other Irish guys, where there was the war when the Italians tried to assassinate them and they were shooting each other back and forth. Right? You should see those movies. Read the books, because those are based on real events that happened here in the United States. All of those. Right? Godfather was everywhere in the world. That happened in real life too. But not exactly the way you see it. And the movies are not exactly 100% accurate, but they're very close to what happened in real life in these stories that you look up and read about you find out that it was real. Okay, I'm going to go. You guys have a great weekend. It's a holiday weekend if you're in the United States. It's Labor Day on Monday, so everybody's off today, tomorrow, Sunday, and Monday. So you guys that are here in the United States, barbecue hard. Have a great Labor Day weekend. And you got to love the United States is the only place who celebrates working by taking a day off. You got to love that. Labor Day in the United States is celebrating everybody that works by taking a day off. And it's a national holiday, and there's no mail. The banks are closed. You just have stores opened and fast food restaurants and the like. But nothing gets done by the federal government. They're all done and off. And all federal jobs, you have the holiday off and nobody works. You get paid for it. So yay to working. We'll all take a day off. Okay, guys, have a great weekend wherever you are in the world. This has been Orion Rising. I'm your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into this show. I'll see you guys next week.